myself. I'm a little rusty on it.
I'll hum it for you.
I'm going to be fine with your jokes, but I'm not sure about dark branding.
Okay. Hello. It's been a bit. So I spent all last week feeling utterly sick and without a voice for a while, so that's why you didn't see me. But, and I feel like I've said that, I guess I have to apologize up front for kind of a lack of consistency lately. Just kind of, went through some burnout, then got back into it for a couple weeks. Then I got really sick, but hopefully we can get back on track, and get things going. Okay, so what have we missed so far? What did we miss? So last week, Trump got indicted on federal charges, which is pretty wild. I don't really have a whole lot to say about that. It's mostly just, it is what it is. We'll see what happens with the trial. I'm not that I'm not interested, but it's really more like it's in the judicial system's hands at this point. We'll check in with it to see how it's going. But, the thing that gets me is there's like a million articles, and you all see it. It's every other second you're tripping over another article that's like what the next indictments mean, what these indictments mean, what the evidence, and it's just like, all right. Can we like move on? Like, can we wait until the trial starts to start narrativizing the trial a little bit? It's a bit tiresome, I find, but that'll be what it is. Like I said, we will, oh my God, still a bit of a cough. We will, like I said, check in with it when things are actually happening with it. Otherwise, the other big thing that happened over the weekend, it looks like, besides, the Denver Nuggets winning the NBA Finals, which was cool, it seems that Joe Rogan has started a bit of a spat, a bit of a rivalry between RFK Jr. and what is it, Dr. Howitzer, one or the other. I always forget. I forget if it was it Hauser? Let's see. I know if I type in Rogan. And let's see. Howtiz. It's Howtiz? Yeah. Anyway, we'll take a look at that story really quick. But before we do any of that, let's I mentioned in the title, it's Juneteenth, and I kind of want to take a look at two little things on Twitter. We'll watch like a quick video and then get into the news stuff. But like, let's look into this. So Charlie Kirk, the proprietor of Toilet Paper USA, went on Twitter today of all days to, I think, really remind us all what a college education can do for you, and what a lack of a college education is going to leave you with. Charlie Kirk went out and tweeted, if Juneteenth was really about emancipation, why not September 22nd, 1862, when Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, or January 1st, 1863, when the proclamation took effect, or December 18th, 1865, with the ratification of the 13th Amendment, because it's not about emancipation, which is one of America's great moral achievements. Way to go, America. You had slavery for what, the first 100 years, and then you said, maybe let's not do that. You walked it back from slavery, which, don't get me wrong. I'm a person who thinks that, people make mistakes, and I'm all about growth, right? But from the perspective of a nation, we went from, we want to take a moral achievement as deciding after having slavery to not have slavery. I don't think, I think just kind of coming to the awareness of, maybe slavery isn't good from the get-go is how you get credit. That's just me, though. It's about creating a summertime race-based competitor 2 weeks before July 4th, which should be the most unifying civic holiday on the calendar. Which is really weird because it's like Charlie brings up July 4th as if Juneteenth is a challenge to July 4th, which is weird because I don't think anybody's ever seen it that way, and I don't think anybody's ever framed it that way. But Charlie, I mean, it being 2 weeks away, if it was the same day, Charlie would say, "How dare you disrespect July 4th? We're supposed to be coming together." And then we would go, other things happen on July 4th. But, at the very least, it would be the same day, maybe. But it's 2 weeks later. So Charlie has to be like, it's a 2 week out competitor. Like, what? Trust me, if it was 3 weeks, if it was 4 weeks, if it was like 6 months away, doesn't matter. He would just say wintertime, springtime, competitor to July 4th. Because to him, at the end of the day, a celebration for Black America, any kind of celebration for Black Americans and for culturally Black people in the United States, is a challenge to the hegemonic. It's funny. Charlie Kirk claims that it's a competitor. Nobody else says that, which tells you that Charlie Kirk thinks it is, which means Charlie Kirk thinks that Black history stands in a different light, in a different room, in a different way, aside from regular American history. That's how you know, because Charlie Kirk drew this line. Nobody else did. But, it is what it is. Another good one I saw that was, I think, responding to this one was the good old fashioned. We all know this meme. For over 100 years, Democrats lynched Black Americans for trying to vote. And if Black support for Trump keeps rising, they'll start doing it again. Now, we all don't need, nobody here, nobody with a brain in here needs to hear about the ideological switch during the 1960s. We don't need to have that conversation. It's been litigated 100 times. Anybody who puts this up is either dishonest or fucking brain broken. They're an idiot. They're a moron. They should probably be institutionalized. All that being said, let's look at a quick video to educate some folks. Because, Juneteenth isn't like a holiday that I would say was widely celebrated when I was growing up. It really wasn't like this, we recognize it as a thing, but to me, at least, Juneteenth, not until like maybe the last like 20 years or so. And even then I'd still say maybe more like 10 to 15 has really risen in terms of its prominence as a recognized American holiday. So let's go take a look at actual education and leave these morons behind for a moment.
Make the news make sense. Today, millions of people across the country are off work for Juneteenth. Recognized.
How did Juneteenth become a federal holiday? Let's connect the dots. Juneteenth, a combination of the words June and 19th, commemorates when the last enslaved people in the South were finally set free. It's a holiday rich in history. After the Union defeated the Confederacy in 1965, 4 million slaves were set to become free. But it didn't happen immediately. Union armies began marching through the southern states, freeing thousands of slaves every day. The news took months to reach
Because keep in mind, unlike nowadays, you don't really, like, back then, you didn't have, you didn't have national, like, news on television. You kind of had to hear about laws getting passed. You had to hear about this sort of stuff. News had to actually travel from place to place, as opposed to now where, it's pretty ubiquitous. Everyone hears kind of the same news.
Texas. On June 19th, 1865, Union troops rode into Galveston, Texas, and told slaves of their freedom. Their spontaneous celebration gave birth to Juneteenth. Over 150 years later, private companies made Juneteenth a permanent paid holiday for their employees after protests erupted.
Also, let's be really clear here. Most companies will like especially with a lot of like office jobs, man, they will take like anything to get a holiday off, to get a day out of the office. It's like
following the murder of George Floyd.
Hilarious.
Then in 2021, the U.S. Congress passed legislation to make it a federal holiday, and
Nice.
President Biden signed it into law.
Cool.
And that's connecting the dots.
Wonderful. So again, like when Charlie Kirk says, this specific day to celebrate emancipation, whatever, It is all just a lot of, hey, could we not celebrate this holiday that's important for Black people? That's all it really is that I don't think it's a worthwhile holiday for we all as Americans to celebrate. Because you would think, this is what you would think. If you weren't a racist, you would see Juneteenth and you would go, hey, that's pretty cool. And you would maybe ask the question, hey, like if I remember correctly, when I went to school when I was a little kid, in the history books, they said, the Emancipation Proclamation passed on this day, all that stuff. You would say all the excuses Charlie gives and go like, why is it on this holiday? And then somebody would give you this story and be like, oh yeah, so it did pass, but not 2 years later did it find that news finally make it to Texas. And a lot of those people were actually liberated and they celebrated. And now we kind of take that day that they were freed officially, or at the very least, practically, like in reality, that's when they were freed. And in reality, that's when they celebrated. And we kind of join in that same celebration. Yes, it's not on the day that the bill passed, but that's also not even the day that we ended slavery. The day that the last slave that was freed was, I believe, in like the let's see, when was last slave freed in USA? Let's see. No, I know Juneteenth. Let's see. When did it? Juneteenth marks day last enslaved people. Yeah. 1865. Yeah. No, there was like, where was it? Am I crazy? Maybe I just got my dates wrong. Abolished in 18. Yeah, I know it was abolished in 1865. Yeah, I know that. As recently, here we go, 2018. 1963. Holy shit. Let's see. This is from Live Science. I'm fine with this. White landowners enslaved Black century. Let's see. That's the conclusion. Decades of research by historian genealogist Antoinette Harrell, who described. Go away. Let's see. Who described her findings in a series of interviews and files published today, on February 28th. Harrell. Oh my God. Go away. Harrell has uncovered numerous examples of white people in southern states entrapping Black workers in peonage slavery. Although the peonage was technically outlawed in 1865. I met about 20 people, all who worked on the Waterford plantation in St. Charles Parish, Louisiana. They told me they had worked the fields for most of their lives. One way or another, they had become indebted to the plantation's owner and were not allowed to leave the property. At the end of the harvest, when they tried to settle up with the owner, they were always told they didn't make it into the black and to try again next year. Every passing year, the workers fell deeper and deeper in debt. Some of those folks were tied to that land into the 1960s. Jesus. And Harrell found that the cruelty practiced modern white enslavers towards the black people they enslaved through the peonage was reminiscent of records from the height of chattel slavery. Harrell describes the case of May Louise Walls Miller, who didn't get her freedom until 1963. When she was about 14, as a child, Miller would get sent up to the landowner's house on the farm where her family was enslaved and raped by whatever men were present, sometimes along. Jesus Christ, dude. Jesus Christ. Yeah, so like, oof. Oh my God. We need to, in this country, we desperately need to teach more CRT. We desperately need to teach more about our history and Reconstruction. Absolutely. Oh my God. Sorry. I'm still like, you ever get those like, that like lingering tiredness? Like, God, I haven't had like a real full day of like full energy in a while. What are you doing back there? Are you, what? You want to say hello? Is that what? Come here, you big chunk. But yeah, like the thing about our history, especially here in the US, is it's wrought with a lot of, I think, political discomfort. Was that right? Can you say political discomfort? over like something that shouldn't really be that uncomfortable. Like, yes, slavery was a thing in this country. Yes, we did engage in a pretty gruesome version of it, but we got past it. And in no way, like it's really depressing to see people who are so insecure about this country's history and try to call themselves, patriots or real Americans or whatever. It's like, you got to take the good with the bad in all of the history. But that means you have to also accept that, hey, like, we did do this stuff and we do need to reckon for a lot of it. And we need to kind of fix a lot of that stuff. There's just, it's a process. And like people who get really uncomfortable about it, I get it. You're like, oh, a lot of times we'd hear people, say that like, oh, CRT is made or was created to make white people feel bad. No, it was created to give you an awareness of your history. And if that makes you feel bad, then maybe you should internalize a little bit of that and understand why that makes you feel bad and why that makes you feel insecure about that. It's just so, I don't know. There's nothing wrong with learning your history. There's nothing wrong with accepting that there are some really, really shitty things that we did. And then like, one moment. And then, people who want to see more change, people who want to take that history and try to right some of the lingering wrongs that it left behind. I just don't see the harm in that. It's the only way you move forward. But speaking of our history, the Supreme Court, we talked a little bit about this when it was being considered by the Supreme Court. I want to take a look. What was it, 3 days ago? Yeah. The Supreme Court actually ended up siding in favor of the Indian Child Welfare Act. So I want to take a look at the update to that story because that was a really interesting and important one. And, the Supreme Court these days is wielding a lot of power. But it's good that they didn't, it's certainly good that they've upheld this one.
We begin today's show with a major victory at the Supreme Court in a case that could have gutted Native American sovereignty. On Thursday, the court upheld the 1978 Indian Child Welfare Act that protects Native children from being removed from their tribal communities for fostering or adoption in non-Native homes. Tribal leaders say the law helps to preserve their families, traditions, and cultures. In a stunning 7-2 ruling, Justice Amy Coney Barrett rejected an argument from Republican-led states and white families who argued the system is based on race, writing, quote, "In sum, Congress's power to legislate with respect to Indians is well established and broad." Justice Neil Gorsuch wrote in a concurring opinion, quote, "The Indian Child Welfare Act did not emerge from a vacuum. It came as a direct response to the mass removal of Indian children from their families during the 1950s, 1960s, and 1970s by state officials and private parties," unquote. Many are also taking note of the final paragraph of Justice Gorsuch's opinion.
Oh boy.
It reads, quote, "Often, Native American tribes have come to this court seeking justice only to leave with bowed heads and empty hands. But that is not because this court has no justice to offer them. Our Constitution reserves for the tribes a place, an enduring place, in the structure of American life. It promises them sovereignty for as long as they wish to keep it. And it secures that promise by divesting states of authority over Indian affairs and by giving the federal government certain significant but limited and enumerated powers aimed at building a lasting peace."
That's actually, okay, yeah. I remember talking about this a bit. Yeah, at the end of the day, the relationship that the United States has with Indian territories is not one of states and the territories. It's the federal government and the territories. Like, jurisdictionally, the federal government has the say over that land and has the relationship with those tribes, not states.
In adopting the Indian Child Welfare Act, Congress exercised that lawful authority to secure the right of Indian parents to raise their families as they please, the right of Indian children to grow in their culture, and the right of Indian communities to resist fading into the twilight of history. Gorsuch concluded, all of that is in keeping with the Constitution's original design, unquote. Meanwhile, Justices Samuel Alito and Clarence Thomas both wrote dissents, with Thomas objecting to, quote, regulating state court child custody proceedings of U.S. citizens who may never have even set foot on Indian lands merely because the child involved happens to be an Indian, unquote. For more
You know what's really fucked too is the fact that it always says Indian. Like, can we talk about for a minute how fucked that is? That like Indian as a term for Native Americans is like a misnomer, is a complete like miscategorization of them as a people. And yet we still use it as like, it's so fucked, right? Like, fuck. Like, goddamn, man.
More on all of this, we're joined in Oklahoma by Rebecca Nagel, a Cherokee writer, award-winning journalist who followed this case closely in a piece for The Nation headlined, "The Story of Baby O," and the case that could gut Native sovereignty. She's also the host of This Land podcast. In season 2, she's been reporting on how the far right is using Native children to attack American Indian tribes and advance a conservative agenda. Jesus. Rebecca, welcome back to Democracy Now! Please first respond to this, what shocked many Native American tribes and communities, and also tell us the story of Baby O.
Thank you, Amy, so much for having me and for covering this important issue. Really, what happened with this case is that for the past decade, special interest groups have used this law, the Indian Child Welfare Act, as a vehicle to launch a broader attack on tribes and tribal sovereignty. And so the arguments that they invited the Supreme Court to adopt would have not only gotten rid of the Indian Child Welfare Act, but it would have really destabilized the area of law a lot of people call federal Indian law. And instead of taking that invitation, the Supreme Court responded with a very, very strong no. One of the ways that these special interest groups...
Yeah, because it's also like, keep in mind also is the argument that they wanted to make was a racial one. When what it actually is a like sovereignty and like kind of, I guess, cultural one to a degree, because it's basically like, if you have children, right? If you have children that are born like on US soil, or they're in the adoption system and they have ties back to basically that tribe, it's no different than if you had like a child who's, I don't know, let's say, let's say this, let's say, two people from America go overseas to like Ireland, right? And let's say, they, one of them's pregnant or something. They have their child over there, but, some crazy car accident happened. They both die. That child is now put up for adoption. It wouldn't be in like Ireland. You would obviously want them to go back to the US where they are from, where their like family and everything else is. Like, this is rather obvious. And again, considering these are tribal lands, the relationship between the states and the tribes are not like, they don't have the same kind of relationship. The federal government has a relationship with them.
Have advanced these cases is by really misrepresenting the facts on the ground and what happened when these non-Native foster parents tried to adopt Native children. So it's a complicated case. There's multiple foster parents. One of those couples is a couple named the Librettis from Nevada. When a child was placed
one of them like a fucking
with
weirdo
them through Safe Haven,
family.
Within a few weeks, her father was identified. It was identified that her father was a descendant of a federally recognized tribe and that she was eligible for enrollment. And the process started for her to be placed with a family member. And the Libretti's response to that was extraordinary. I mean, they wrote a letter to that child's grandmother asking her to disenroll so that ICWA would not imply. They managed to rope social workers into their plot who either refused to call relatives who were possible placements, or when they made those calls, tried to talk the relatives out. And basically Nevada social workers strong-armed the tribe into entering a settlement. And we found,
Jesus.
stories like that in all of the underlying custody cases. And so what really happened in this case was,
And like what's funny too is like this is very much a property game, right? Because if you're if you're, supposedly a caring parent, if you're somebody who wants the best for the children, then you let them go back to their group then. Or even then, you wouldn't ask like, hey, can you like not engage with this, yada, yada, yada. There are absolutely ways that if you were a good person, you could go through this process and request like, hey, we already started taking care of this kid or something, or whatever it might be. But the fact that they go through all of this for a child that they haven't taken care of, that they haven't really met, like any of this shit, it's absurd. It's completely crazy. And it shows like it kind of, to me, reveals this mindset about children that I really dislike as a child of adoption. It really bugs me when I see children in the adoption system, and this is a good example of this, being kind of looked at, viewed at as property, as like, no, I want this thing, I want this person. And I don't think I don't think that should be a thing. I don't know if it certainly proves to me that like if you were giving me applications and you were like, oh, I saw somebody go through all of this to keep a child from their native tribe, when they what's the word, when ICWA like applied to them, I would be really suspicious of those people. What are you doing? Why are you, what do you, okay. Can you fit behind? Okay, cool. It's very suspicious to me. Very suspicious.
Was rather than non-native foster parents being able to adopt, being prevented from adopting native kids, for the most part, they won custody. And the people who faced the real hurdles were the native relatives who just wanted to keep their young relatives in their family.
And so what ultimately happened to Baby O, and how did this case make it to the Supreme Court?
So Baby O, like many of the other children in the underlying custody cases, all of the children in the underlying custody cases have been adopted, and those adoptions are final. And so Baby O was adopted by the Librettis, and that's who she's being raised by, despite there being several blood relatives that came forward during her case who wanted to raise her. And that was one of the things that...
And like, imagine that. You want me to believe that you're this like caring, you just care about the children, yada, yada, yada. And then there's like blood relatives right there who want to take, like, that kid is eventually going to grow up and like want to know those people. They're going to be interested in getting to know, who those people are, where they come from, how they fit into the world. Like, these are pretty important stuff. As, again, a child of adoption, I can tell you absolutely, with no doubt in my mind, that child is going to have a tough time with their identity, because they are going to grow up in an environment that never validates or never really reckons with the fact that they were taken as property for this family against their will, mind you, away from people who they will have a, like, I'm trying to think of the word, like a cultural tie to, a, like, and not to say that I personally, like, I've never met my family, that's not, and it's not even something I'm that interested in doing. My family's my family. I love my family. I don't need to go and search out my biological, family members or anything like that. But that's just me. Not everyone has that. Not everyone doesn't mind. There are going to be people that will always want to kind of seek those folks out and try to find out where they come from, who they're related to, all this sort of stuff. And it's just depressing, and it's complete bullshit. These people don't give a fuck about these kids. They care about whatever little game they're playing in their mind. I don't know if it's like a religious one or if it's a cultural one. I don't know, but it's fucking sus as hell.
I was relieved to see in the Supreme Court case, this case has been on stilts since it was filed in federal court. All of the underlying adoptions have been long final. And normally, when that happens, a lawsuit is over. There needs to be a controversy for a lawsuit to move forward. And I think one of the things that the Supreme Court signaled in this ruling is that it is more dedicated to the rule of the law and the rule of civil procedure than the politics of this case. Because one of the things that the plaintiffs invited the Supreme Court to do was to ignore those things and instead to make a political decision. And they rejected that, which I think is good, not just for Native nations and families, but for the rule of law.
So, Rebecca Nagel, can you talk about the comments of Justice Neil Gorsuch, Amy Coney Barrett? These are some of the most conservative members of the court. And the fact that this shocked Native Americans around the country. And to also talk about why would, organizations like gambling casinos be very invested in this case. When you talk about, by the way, ICWA, that's the Indian Child Welfare Act.
Yeah, so the special interest groups that have been attacking ICWA for the past decade kind of fall into three buckets. So it's a handful of private adoption attorneys. And if you look at the private adoption industry, they've fought basically any regulation that would
the fact that we have private adoption is kind of gross.
Available for adoption.
Like, it's literally you're selling children.
Like the Goldwater Institute. We also found a lot of money flowing into the anti-ICWA campaign from the Bradley Foundation. And then who's really spearheading the effort now is a law firm called Gibson Dunn and a lawyer there named Matthew McGill. And last January, the other shoe dropped. And so they actually, Gibson Dunn and Matthew McGill filed a lawsuit on behalf of a casino developer saying that tribal gaming was racial discrimination against him because he could not make as much money as the tribes. And so they've basically used the exact same arguments that they're making to attack ICWA to attack tribal gaming. And so I think the hope for them was that if they won this case, they could sort of have the follow-up case to attack tribal gaming. And fortunately, they were unsuccessful. A lot of people are surprised by Gorsuch and Barrett. I'm not. I think that if you listen to oral arguments, Barrett was really positioning herself in the middle on this case. And so when I saw that the opinion was authored by Barrett, I had a sigh of relief with that.
Wow, it's literally reading. Wow, it's literally they're bitching because it's competition. They just don't like competition. Like most capitalists, they have no interest in competition. Wow, shocker there. Fucking color me shocked.
I was even more relieved. We've had a lot of liberal justices that have sat on the bench that have not been friendly to tribal sovereignty because I think that they don't understand it. I think Justice Ginsburg is somebody that people point to a lot. And so, I think it is good for tribes to have justices that really understand the law and how that law relates to the Constitution. I think what Gorsuch did in his concurring opinion that we almost never see, was that he talked about the long history of the U.S. government removing Native children from their families. And the reason that is important is that he's talking about why ICWA is important from the perspective of Native people. And I think that often our perspectives and our stories and our histories aren't told at venues like the Supreme Court. So to see that coming from a justice was really powerful.
And also it seems like in reading a bit of that, they also mention, I think, kind of or at the very least, they signaled a recognition that the law, like ICWA in and of itself, is not just some like law that exists, like they didn't interpret it in kind of this neutral way. They recognized the history and the purpose behind it, which I think gave obviously gave it a lot more credence to them, because there is like this I remember with the I forget which case it was a couple weeks ago, the new girl, I forget her name now, Ah, god damn it. Now I have to look her up now. God damn it. Newest Supreme Court Justice. Let's see. How is it that it's not on this little, really? Ketanji Brown Jackson, that's what it is. Yeah, like, I remember, because didn't she bring up, if I remember correctly, she brought up how, like, a previous law, like, when you contextualize it, it's like, oh, okay, like, this law isn't just a law in the abstract, you know, or this decision wasn't in, like, an abstract void. Like, this was written for and intended for Black people. And I think it might have been 13th Amendment. I'm not 100% sure. I don't remember, but I remember them bringing up kind of the broader context behind why the laws exist and why it was written the way it was, which is good. Like, an understanding of history is a big part of like law, I think.
And so where does this case go from here in terms of Native American law, U.S. law?
Yeah, so, you know, in the past decade, ICWA has been challenged almost as many times as the Affordable Care Act. This case is the closest and the furthest they have ever gotten in their effort to overturn ICWA. And they got a very, very strong rejection from the Supreme Court. And so I think time will tell whether or not they will bring other cases. Our reporting found other cases that are still sort of in family court that these corporate lawyers are swooping in to represent non-Native families. So they'll continue to do that. And, you know, what's next for the Supreme Court is yet to be seen. You know, the past few years, we've had some great decisions. We've had some bad decisions. It's been a bit of a roller coaster. But I think, you know, what's important about this case is that we're seeing not only the Supreme Court, but I think the public show more of an interest and more of a knowledge about the Constitution and tribal sovereignty and how all these things work. I think some of our biggest barriers at the Supreme Court has been ignorance. And I think seeing that knowledge come out in the Supreme Court opinion is really encouraging.
Rebecca Nagel, we want to thank you for being with us, Cherokee writer and award-winning journalist. We'll link to your piece in The Nation, headlined "The Story of Baby O." And the
That's really good, though. I mean, regardless of whatever I think, as much as I do think this was a monstrous case, it's undeniably good that Supreme Court rejected it. Absolutely. Okay. Let's take a look. See. Shall we? All right. Should we just go right into let's see. Yeah, should we do okay. This is fairly short. Okay. Yeah, let's shift into okay, you're playing with that. Okay. Let's shift into the second portion to part 2, and or as I refer to it, the legally distinct fun half, and talk about RFK Jr. Sound good? Sound good? Sound good? I think it sounds good. All right. Let's do this, and we'll be back.
So do not shop at Target, or else you're gay.
Spit in my mouth, look in my eyes.
Just to simplify this, I think we're just going to use
I may keep the pantyhose on. It does feel kind of good, actually.
Larger than that, Charlie. I live like a capitalist every single day.
Beat it up, N-word.
What is more important? You are culture. That's jokers.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
I like black guys a lot.
the alpha males are back.
I wish I had a dog. More of a dog person. Okay, how's everyone doing? All right, we're back. God. I just feel so tired. Like I still, like the cough is still kind of lingering around. I still feel really tired. Speaking of feeling tired and having a lingering cough, RFK Jr. I don't know if that's a good transition. RFK Jr. is a RFK guy, is a Kennedy, running for president in the Democratic Party. He is probably the most prominent challenger to Biden. And because, you know, he's trying to run a successful campaign, you know, he's been hitting the online media circuits like you do. And ended up this weekend. Was he on the show? Let's see. I think he was on the show, wasn't he? Yeah, he showed up on Joe Rogan, for which they talked about a lot of his opinions on things, for which he has a lot. Let's take a look at this article, then we'll watch a video, and then we'll engage with a video we were going to watch a couple weeks ago. That's kind of on the same topic, shall we? All right, so Joe Rogan challenges Dr. Peter Hotez to debate anti-vaxxer RFK Jr. on his podcast. Podcast host Joe Rogan challenged vaccine researcher Dr. Where is it? There it is. Dr. Peter Hotez to debate presidential candidate and anti-vaxxer Robert F. Kennedy Jr. after he criticized the Democratic presidential candidate for doubling down on his controversial stance on the Joe Rogan Experience last week. Rogan pledged to donate $100,000 to a charity of Hotez's choosing if he agrees to appear with the political scion who has launched a long shot bid to dethrone President Biden in the 2024 Democratic primary. Okay, so we haven't really talked that much about RFK Jr. And the reason is I don't think he's that relevant. I don't really, you know, regardless of what I think of his politics, I'm not really sure like how relevant he's going to be in a primary that's not going to have debates, which isn't good, by the way, but the reality is I don't know if that's really going to change just because people complain about it. But yeah, like that's probably the big thing for me. Rogan Challenge, which has been viewed over 25 million times, prompted Hotez to respond in a now deleted tweet, which turned into a back and forth exchange. Quote, "Be serious, Joe. That's what you throw for your hunting buddies on a weekend. A $50 million endowment, which you, Spotify RFK Jr., can easily afford. Not for me, but so we can continue making low-cost, patent-free vaccines for the world's poor," preceded by RFK Jr.'s public apology. Twitter owner Elon Musk, of course, had to jump in because, you know, let's be honest here. Elon Musk is the type of guy who, like, you know who Elon Musk is? Elon Musk is, and if, and you know this guy, Elon Musk is the where my hug at guy. Always wants to be involved, always runs to the, you know, to the most popular group, always wants to be involved in every single conversation because they don't have anything interesting going on with their own lives. That is what Elon Musk is. That's why he's even involved. It annoys me that they even bring him up. Owner Elon Musk chimed in saying Hotez hates charity, which is fucking stupid. Even though I'm like, yeah, wait, $100,000, that's all Joe Rogan can fucking afford? I'm with the doctor, dude. Fuck that, dude. Put real money up, not this bullshit $100,000. Fuck that. Let's see. Hates charity while Kennedy agreed to a respectful, congenial, informative debate that the American people deserve. Yeah, and of course, goddamn, dude, RFK, fucking what an L. RFK Jr. obviously trying to like goad him into the conversation because it is kind of what you do. From all the online attacks I'm receiving after this absurd podcast, it's clear many actually believe this nonsense, Hotez tweeted on Saturday, along with a Vice News article claiming Spotify was no longer monitoring Rogan's vaccine misinformation, including the conspiracy theory that vaccines cause autism after Kennedy's interview with Rogan on Rogan's podcast. Wait, does he think? Oh, I think I did see this. Wait, yeah. I saw this over the weekend, like random, when I like randomly got on Twitter for 10 seconds, because it was RFK Jr. autism tweets. Let's see. Where is it? I know. Is this it? Let's see. Why does the CDC refuse? Okay. Let's see. Wait, what is this thing? I'm a Kennedy Democrat. Oh God, that's gross. No, where was it? I remember seeing it. It was like, I don't know, fucking 1100 BC, autism rate 0, vaccine rate 0. Fucking 2023 vaccine rate, 80 or whatever. I don't know what the fuck. Man, I remember seeing it, and it was so like, it was one of those things where like, the minute you give it a few thoughts, it's like, oh, okay, just because I showed two things rising in a similar time period does not mean, God damn it, I don't know if I can find it. Was it a picture? Or it wasn't a picture. It was like actually a tweet, right? Like it wasn't, God damn it. Okay, I can't find it. I'll see if I can find it on the side. Maybe when we're watching the video or something, I'll try and find it. Anyway, let's see. From all the online, okay, let's see. Rogan, who is no stranger himself to controversy on COVID-19 vaccines, asked Hotez to debate Kennedy on his anti-vaccination stance after the doctor said the interview was laden with misinformation. So this is also the thing. Like, if I'm a doctor, right, I don't give a shit about debating somebody on their anti-vax stance, because their anti-vaccination stance isn't like, you're not going to move them off of that. They've taken that position. They now must defend that position. Like, at the end of the day, there isn't like, it's debating somebody on their fucking religion. It's not something that they'll be debated off of. Like, there's more than enough information that you can get whichever answer you want. And there's more than enough ways to look at any data to get to the conclusion that you want. The thing you need to care about, or at least the thing that we as a nation, we as a population tend to prioritize, are people who show a interest in this that's deeper than, maybe like 2 to 3 layers. I want somebody like, you ever see those iceberg videos? There's like the Call of Duty iceberg, all those. I don't want somebody making policy with an awareness of the first like 3 levels. I want somebody who's underneath the fucking, like, in the black, in the darkness of it, who has an understanding of every inch of it, to actually give me this information and actually give me some, my education on this. Not somebody who like has a basic understanding or even a moderate understanding. Like, RFK Jr.'s not a fucking doctor. They're not a scientist. They're a politician. Which, like, why you would go on this debate with a politician about like medicine, I don't fucking know. Because they're going to constantly be either misrepresenting data, misrepresenting definitions, or misunderstanding actual processes. And that's the problem. The point of a politician is to convince you of their positions, not be correct about their positions. I hear a knocking at the door. Yes. A ruler. Are there rulers here? Do you want this? This? Really? Okay. I mean, I suppose. It's... I suppose a lot of things have inches. Anyway. Anyway, Centers of Disease Control and Prevention says there is no link between vaccines and autism. You want to know why? Because there hasn't been one fucking study to prove it. Like, let's find out. Let's see if I can get up, if I can get blown out of the water. A link between, well, not between time. autism and vaccines. CDC. Is there, let's see. No, there's no connection between vaccines and autism. Autism is a condition that affects the brain and makes the, yeah, like there's nothing. There's nothing. If there was a study. Oh, I spelled autism wrong. Is that autistic? I don't fucking know. MMR vaccine. Yep. Almost immediately afterwards, studies were conducted, published, refuted, and posited link. Yep. Like there's just there's just nothing. There's nothing. There's fucking memes. This is what there is. Where did I get my my information? I got it from whatever the fuck this is. Like it's just where's like, can I get like a good one? Let's see, mandatory. Choir parents should be. Oh, okay. No, that's not what I want. But yeah, there's nothing. There's nothing. There's no evidence for this. But like, people just kind of say it because it feels right? Like it feels like, oh, like, you know, you ever seen I know. I just closed it again and I'm opening. Like how let's see, baby doll syringes? Is that what I'm looking for? Yeah, like okay. Maybe vaccines? Yeah, okay, yes. Oh my god, yes. This is exactly what I was thinking. I remember seeing this so long ago. When I was in high school. Doll represents how many vaccines a child receives by age 2. And this is it. This is their research. What's my source? I made it up. Like this is it. This picture. This is all they have. Is they're like, isn't this weird? And it's like, no, it's actually not. There are a lot of diseases. Like, do you as a parent want to take a risk on any of these? On any of these possible diseases? Possible like anything? No, you don't. Like, and this is all they have. It's a scientist versus this feeling. And how am I supposed to refute that? If I'm that doctor, how am I supposed to refute this? If you're a doctor, you know that you've dealt with patients who like read a thing online, it feels right to them, and as you're treating them for something, they're constantly asking you, but doc, isn't it da-da-da-da-da? And they're like, no, you read that on the internet. That's not how that works. Like, these are fucking doctors. Say what you want about our healthcare system. It's fucking trash, but it does not produce bad doctors. It produces debt for everybody else, and debt for doctors that are going through medical school. But like, we do not produce bad doctors here. During Rogan's interview with Kennedy, released Thursday, Hotez was brought up as a point of discussion as the podcast host criticized the doctor for previously saying that he did not take basic measures to help boost his immune system. To have a conversation with someone who doesn't take vitamins and is telling you have to take this medication is like this is a crazy conversation. Rogan said to Kennedy about his April 2020 interview with Hotez. Wait, what? To have a conversation with somebody who doesn't take vitamins, okay. Okay. Not everyone does everything. Have you ever, okay, so isn't there like a thing with like doctors where because you're a doctor, there's like this, I guess this like false sense of security from getting sick, from diseases, from a lot of stuff, because you're a doctor and you think like, oh, well, you know, like I'm a doctor. I know how to not die. Like, isn't that like a whole thing? I've heard of that before. But like, either way, it's like, okay, he doesn't take vitamins. So fucking what? Like, okay, like vitamins are not the number one. And like, at the end of the day, like Joe Rogan is using the fact that one doctor doesn't take vitamins to completely negate his doctorate degree and level of education. It's fucking stupid. Like, the stupidity on display here is fucking insane. Yeah, you have to take this medication. Like, you don't take vitamins, but you tell me to take the fuck, I don't know. I can't take Vicodin for my intense like back pain or something. I don't know if you're really, have you ever taken, have you ever taken extremely strong opioids, doctor? Are you, if you're not really doing it, how can you give me any medical device if you're not like the healthiest person in the world? Like, it's so fucking stupid. Like, Jesus, this dude is so fucking dumb. Let's see. During that appearance, the former Fear Factor host grilled him over his personal health and lifestyle decisions. Hotis conceded, I'm not as cautious about my diet as I should be. I'm a junk foodaholic. Yeah, that's kind of, yeah, that doesn't mean he doesn't know what medicine does, you fucking moron. Like, that means he personally just doesn't do, like, homeboy likes his fucking Skittles. Let him enjoy his fucking Skittles. He loves his berries and cream. Anyway, Hotes, the director of Baylor College of Medicine's National School of Tropical Disease Medicine, said he would be, quote, happy to come on and clear the air, while also extending a counteroffer to Musk, inviting him to visit his vaccine laboratories and, quote, learn more about our work. I mean, let's be clear. They won't do it. Like, Musk isn't going to do it. He's not going to show up to that shit because he's not interested in learning about anything. He's interested about reinforcing the thing that he already believes. Because any kind of because if he goes to like this dude's lab and changes his mind, you know what Musk looks like? A fucking educated, like a person who's able to change their mind through more information, which is not people who he is a fan of and are fans of him. Like, this guy likes the authority of ignorance. Like, that's what he likes. The authoritative nature of ignorance. Rogan calling the response and, quote, a non-answer, voices displeasure with the doctor calling him out instead of reaching out privately. I challenge you publicly because you publicly, quote, tweeted and agreed with the dog shit Vice article. If you're really serious about what you stand for, you now have a massive opportunity for a debate that will reach the largest audience a discussion like this has ever had. If you think someone else is better qualified, suggest that person. And here's the thing. Being good at science does not make you good at explaining or communicating science. A debate is not like, how many of us have watched debates? And how many of us have watched debates and none of what is said matters? It's more about how the information is presented. It's going to be a lot more about how, how convincing someone makes an argument. The actual merits of that argument are pretty up for question. But, if you can make a strong enough case, if you can say, oh, well, doctor, then how do you explain autism and this picture of a baby doll with like 1 million syringes in it? How do you explain the correlation between these two? And a doctor can go, well, here's the thing. I can't explain that to you. We don't have that answer yet. And in the lack of an answer, the honest answer is that we don't know yet. Or at the very least, we're not sure. Or we don't have anything concrete. In the lack of that, of concrete knowledge, we need to, like, there are people like Joe Rogan who want to fill that void with whatever fits their narrative and their perspective. Because Joe Rogan thinks you should be taking less vaccines. Joe Rogan thinks you should be taking less medicine. And that's like, I think I've said it on here before. Take a little bit less ibuprofen. Take a little bit less of some of the extreme stuff. Like, let your body kind of naturally fight stuff. I think that's good. But I would never go out there and be like, just don't get vaccines or don't get any of this stuff. Like, at the end of the day, these are the things that are keeping us like to be, healthy enough or at least our immune system's ready to fight some of these diseases and stuff. So it's just, and like, but that's like his opinion. He just thinks, oh, I think it's too much, which I'm like, fine. I kind of sometimes think it's too much too, but neither of us are scientists and neither of us are healthcare professionals. We're just two fucking dudes. And at the end of the day, we're filling in the real data, the real gap of real data with our vibes data, our vibe take. Like, that's what he's filling it in here. And that's at the end of the day when RFK Jr. poses a question to which there isn't a concrete answer. This guy's going to give the honest answer that we don't know, but we know it's not this. Or at the very least, we have never seen a link between this, between like autism and like the prevalation of vaccines for children. And RFK Jr. will simply sit there and go, you don't have an answer, which means I win this because I have a answer, whether it's right or wrong. I'm taking a position. And when it comes to science, sometimes we don't have the answer. And sometimes that is the answer, is that we don't know. I don't know. You don't know. And what you're saying, if it has even less data to back it up, is even more bullshit. Like, and it's just like not everyone's up for debates. Not everyone's a fucking debate lord. I don't know why he doesn't like fucking have some debate lord on fucking BreadTube or something. I don't know. But fuck, dude, not everyone's a debate guy. Not everyone can perform in a debate, even on subjects that they're like well educated on. Like, I don't think I could debate somebody on fuck, I don't know. I don't really know what I could I don't know what I couldn't debate somebody on. But like that's because I like arguing. Like not like argumentation and debate is different from like learning and education. Like those are just different things. They're just completely different skill sets. Ow. Anyway, Hotez, who acknowledged he deleted his tweet, was unnecessary. Acknowledged his deleted tweet was unnecessarily provocative. Claimed he was hurt when Rogan and his guest labeled him as a pharma shill. Yeah, I'd be pretty upset by that. Pharma shill, saying the comedian had his cell phone number and an email, seemingly wanting to take the exchange offline. Kennedy, and keep in mind, Kennedy's only doing this to like, pick up momentum in the race that I don't think is ever actually going to go anywhere. Kennedy is trailing by him by a margin of 62 to 15 among Democratic voters in recent Harvard CAPS Harris poll. His long-time prominent anti-vax views were highlighted during the COVID-19 pandemic when he railed against vaccines and pushed for use of ivermectin, something that's never been a parasite treatment medicine or anti-malaria drug, hydroxychloroquine, to treat the virus instead. Joe Rogan grills Dr. Peter Hotez, sorry, I keep fucking up his name, for exclusively promoting vaccines while discrediting exercise, vitamins, and health and a healthy diet. Dude, you fucking idiot. God damn it. Like, I'm sorry, but if somebody gets fucking COVID, or if somebody gets a cold, or if somebody gets anything else, you don't tell them, hey, don't take Tylenol, or don't take Dayquil or NyQuil or any of that shit. What you need to do is like work out a bit, eat some salads, and take your vitamins, brother. Like, also, he does realize that vitamins are also like, it's not like vitamins aren't like what's it called, made by the corpos, right? Like, he doesn't know that. It's funny that he's like, the whole time he's always like, oh, vitamins. Like, dude, that's corpos too. You're so worried about like corpos, and you're over here backing vitamins, which are no less privatized than fucking medicine is. But yeah, let's see. Do the vaccines disregard health, exercise? Yeah, there's a large body of data that connects poor diet to a host of diseases. You don't think vitamins are needed while you eat junk food? Let's see. Some idiot on Twitter. The Food and Drug Administration and medical experts, such as Dr. Anthony Fauci, have warned against using the unauthorized drugs for COVID-19 treatment. Yeah, and keep in mind, okay, like you can do like there's a large body of evidence that like, yeah, like poor diet and everything else makes you more susceptible to a lot of things. This is not like, while this is one of them, or at the very least, it's like, yeah, if you're like more out of shape, will you be affected more by COVID? Yeah, but getting in shape is not a 1 week thing. Like, that's going to take a long time for you to work on. So in the meantime, take this vaccine so that you're protected from the worst outcomes. And if you want to work out, get in shape, get healthy, do all the stuff, be like me, work out. No, I don't work out as much as I should. Long live Heather. I don't even know who that is. Let's see. Food and drug. Yeah. Rogan himself stumbled into controversy during the pandemic for using ivermectin to treat the COVID-19 infection. He also publicly questioned wisdom of younger people receiving the COVID-19 vaccine. Oh yeah, didn't he also take ivermectin, but then he was also getting monoclonal antibodies, to which it's like, yeah, that's like the rich man's option if you don't want to get the vaccine. To which is like, yeah, not everyone has the money to get monoclonal antibodies. That's only rich people. Kennedy, or like people who are in severe like cases. Kennedy is one of 2 Democratic primary challenges to Biden alongside self-help author and spiritual guru Marianne Williamson, who I definitely like a little bit more, but neither are really all that relevant. Anti-vax work has drawn a repudiation from members of his own family, with his sister Carrie Kennedy telling the Associated Press in 2021 that he is, quote, completely wrong on this issue and very dangerous. The nephew of President JFK and Attorney General RFK, both assassinated in the 60s. Christ above. Nothing bad ever happens to a Kennedy. Also told Rogan that he's taking precautions to avoid being assassinated by the CIA, who he blamed for killing his uncle. Let's see. The U.S. government has debunked that claim as a conspiracy theory, maintaining that convicted shooter Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone in the 1963 presidential murder. Okay, yeah. We're not going to litigate that, mainly because I don't have the background to litigate that one. All right, let's take a video, because I think this is the thing. I saw this. This just popped up. I just kind of want to get a vibes check. Oh no, are you a conservative commenter? Oh no.
Achieve these, and I'll just say one other thing, Joe. That war's cost us $113 billion. That's the commitment so far. CDC's entire budget is $12 billion a year. FDA or EPA's entire budget is about $12 billion. We have 57% of our people in this country cannot put their hands on $1,000 if they need to, if there's an emergency. 25% of Americans are hungry now, are not getting enough food.
Capitalism, right?
I have a friend who is a commercial fisherman who spent his life.
Is this going to behave if I go full screen again? Are you going to behave?
Business.
There we go. Okay.
Put it together, but because it's a private business, because he was working a lot for other people, he doesn't have benefits. He now has a disability. His son-in-law runs the business, but can't support him. He has a disability, and he has been surviving on $280 worth of food stamps from the SNAP program.
Cool, good
and
friend.
That doesn't take you too far. But on March 1st, he got a robocall from the government saying your food stamps have been cut by 90%. You're now getting $25 a month. Try feeding yourself on 90 cents a day in this country. 30 million Americans got that call. These are, and that same month, we bailed out, we printed $300 billion new dollars to bail out the Silicon Valley Bank. And we topped off the Ukraine war commitment to $113 billion. So we got lots of money for the military-industrial complex, lots of money for the bankers, the banksters. But
okay, we have corruption in this country. We have legalized bribery that leads to corruption. None of this is anything you didn't hear about back in 2016 during the Bernie campaign. Keep in mind.
We're starving Americans to death. Starving them. And because of all the inflation, we spent $16 trillion on the lockdown. We wasted, got nothing for it. $8 trillion on the Ukraine war. That's $24 trillion that they had to print to pay for nothing. That money, the way they're paying it back, they're not going to tell us they're raised taxes, because you can't do that. It's a hidden tax called inflation, and it hits the poor and the middle class. And
people starve. Yeah, people starve now under like pretty rampant capitalism.
Has dismantled the middle class in this country. Well, my friends' food bills for basic foods like chicken, dairy, and eggs has increased 76% in 2 years to pay for the Iraq war, the Ukraine war, the Iraq war, and the lockdowns.
Oh yeah, also keep in mind, fucking like when was this? This was okay, so this was recently. Yeah. And keep in mind, there are people who are like, it's now going to be even harder to get onto food assistance programs because of the bullshit debt ceiling deal that Biden cut. Like, it's fucking ridiculous.
His food prices
works so fucking hard to kick a few people.
And now the government's telling him, well, we have plenty of money for the military and the banks. We don't have it for Americans who are hardworking people.
Yeah, no shit.
And
dude,
something is not right.
What do you want? What do you want? What are you mad about? Do you want to come on and like complain to me or something? Like I've been on in like a week because I was sick last week. So if you want to come on and have a conversation, you can pick whatever topic. I don't mind. But like what? Get a life? What? I stream. I like streaming. I like talking politics. What do you want from me? Doing the thing that I want to do. What are you doing that you want to be doing right now? Like, fuck Christ.
We're in a crisis in this country. We're in, and we need to start we need to start unraveling the empire. We have 800 bases abroad. We were told in 1992, when the Soviet Union collapsed.
Best year, best
we were
90s.
Told we were going to get a peace dividend. That the military expenditure was going to go from $600 billion a year to $200 billion, and we were going to stop making billion-dollar stealth bombers that can't fly in the rain. And that we're going to take that money home and build schools with it and build infrastructure and give good health care in the inner cities. And then none of that happened. Today, instead of going down to $200 billion, it's gone up the total military expenditure if you include national security.
And remember, now this is my thing also. A lot of what's it called? In the exact same debt ceiling negotiation that I just mentioned. Do you want to know what the one place that Republicans made sure would not get cut funding? They're complaining about the debt ceiling, about how much money that we put into our social programs, everything else. Do you want to know one of the only places that they protected? The Pentagon's budget. That's it. They wanted to kick people off of food assistance so that they could keep money flowing into the Pentagon, which at the end of the day flows into weapons manufacturers' pockets, which flow into the executives, which flow into the managers of all those processes. And when all of these politicians, every single one of these politicians, whenever any of them go to run for office, they're all going to get money from manufacturers. They're all going to get money from super PACs funded by those manufacturers. And some of them are going to leave government and go work for Lockheed Martin, go work for Boeing, go work for any of these companies. They're going to leave. They're going to go work for those companies. They're going to get a nice $1 million+ position in these companies for constantly sending them money so that they can make a buck. You know? And that's how this revolving door works. What he's describing here, I don't disagree with, but like, again, to me, this is nothing really new from the Bernie campaign. Like, we all kind of understand this. And I think most Americans understand how the revolving door works in terms of Washington. Like, the revolving door is kind of obvious, right? Like, everybody has like some private interest group or some private corpo or some private super PAC that's funded by corpos that they all they all get money from. They all get money for their elections for, and then suddenly they pass laws that are in favor of those corps, and then eventually go and work for them as consultants, or they sit on their boards or anything else. Like, this is all very transparent. Is any of this like to me at the end of the day, all this is all well and good, but as much as I agree with everything you just said there, it's also nothing we haven't heard before. And when paired with some of the other stuff, it's a bit sussy. But speaking of, okay, so I think, when was this? This was a bit ago. So if anybody has ever seen Breaking Points with Crystal and Sagar, they had RFK on to kind of talk to him about the vaccine stuff. So I think this is actually a good, because I'm pretty sure Spotify will fucking nix me if I go and play Joe Rogan clips, I'm pretty sure. So same topic, let's hear, and this is like a month before, which is his talking points are going to be basically the same. I want to hear what kind of his arguments are. So let's go over that, shall we?
So let me ask you about vaccines. This is an area where you and I have significant differences. And, you know, just to level with you on this, like a lot of what you say I really respond to. I think you're a very genuine person. But the across the board, whether you want to call it vaccine skepticism or anti.
Do you want me to just look up the total debt? Also, why do I care about what the number is? To me, the question with any debt, especially for a country, the question to me is prioritization. Why are we incurring this much debt? For what purposes? If you're asking me like, you know, do we take on debt to put everyone through college? Do we take on debt to ensure everybody has a healthy life or has access to doctors? Then I think that's justifiable debt. Every country is going to run debt essentially, and we're going to be one of the largest debtors in the world because we are one of the largest economies in the world, if not the largest, most likely. So I mean, to me, it's prioritization, and the fact that it goes to the military means that we're not getting anything out on the other end. We're shelling all of this money out for absolutely no fucking benefit. He's a traitor. Sigas Turnen Joyer. Would you like to make like a point, or do you have something to say to me, or should I just boot your ass? Sure, is a good thing. Depends. What are we getting out of it? Also, we're America. I'm pretty sure we can afford 96 trillion, considering a lot of that debt is owed to ourselves. I'm gonna allow this to go for a little bit longer, but I grow bored with the debt talk. I'll lose everything to the government. Okay, point. Also, if you go into debt, you don't lose it to the government. Usually if you've ever actually been in debt, you would know that usually a private collection agency will come for your property, or will come for or will hound you for like the rest of time. Oh my god, this streamer's so dumb, I just can't. Okay. Well, that's really, you know what? There you go. You can get a timeout then. You don't want to be here, don't be here. Like, you're just ignoring me if you're just going to complain. If you want to come in here and just do the streamer sucks, then you can go find somewhere else. But you're annoying the shit out of me now. Haven't made an argument this entire
advocacy,
time.
Which has been a central part of what you've been up to for the past number of years. For me personally, it's an issue, and it's a real sort of red line. And I know I'm not alone in that, especially running in a Democratic primary. There are going to be other millions of people like me who have similar concerns. So how do you win them over? What's your message to people who think like I do?
Well, but just tell me where you think I got it wrong.
Well, I think you get it wrong when you draw a correlation between the rise of things like autism and the introduction of vaccines when there isn't hard scientific evidence tying those things together.
There's no evidence. There's none. There is the picture I showed you earlier.
How do you know? Let me ask you this. How do you know there's not a hard scientific evidence?
Well, because the one major study that purported to show that was retracted, and the scientist who conducted it was,
Now, what you're doing now,
basically
Crystal,
fraudulently created. Listen,
no.
Hold on.
You're
But
raising
I don't.
this issue.
Well, I love this. So fucking defensive immediately. Like, whoa. I have no evidence. And yet the only evidence I had was complete bullshit. But you see, like, there was evidence. There was a study done, and it was bullshit. And what does he do? He's like, no. I need to, no, we're talking about something else. No, it was bullshit. Just accept that. But he won't. He never will. He'll never accept that study was bullshit, because then that would be him taking an L.
I don't want to get in a debate with you about this, because you've spent your life pulling out this study. And that. I will tell you. Let me just tell you.
Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds.
Let me just tell you. I've listened to hours of interviews with you with an open mind, and I'm not persuaded. Now, maybe I'm wrong. That's possible. I'll hold it out there. People can watch. I thought Megyn Kelly did a phenomenal
No, why would you concede maybe I'm wrong? You're not. There is no evidence to
interview
this.
with you that went through all these claims piece by piece by
It's
piece.
correlation,
I
not
really
causation.
encourage people to watch that whole exchange because we won't be able to do it justice here in the 5 minutes we have left. But there are going to be people like me who aren't persuaded and who see this as an issue. And the fact that it's been such a central part of your advocacy means I can't just sort of put it to the side and say, well, I'll just ignore, this piece that's been really important to you in your life. So you're running in a Democratic primary. You have a lot of people who feel even more strongly than me who think that, Dr. Fauci is a hero and all of these things. How are you going to persuade them? How are you going to reach them? And what is your message to them?
Well, first of all, I'm not leading with, my opinions about vaccines. But what I say to people is show me where I got it wrong. Show me where I got my science wrong. I've written books about this. I wrote a book about a link between thimerosal and autism that has, I think, 450 distilled scientific studies that confirm and validate that hypothesis and 1,400 references. And if I got something wrong, show me where it is.
But I think people...
Yeah, this is what I mean earlier. Like, you can find a data set. Like, when you're constructing something like this, all you need to do is find the data that lines up with your hypothesis. That's all you have to do. You just have to find the right data set to give you the right answer. It's a selection bias. Now, I don't know what the link that he's speaking about. I don't know the fucking book he's talking about. But like, that is kind of when he says like, oh, tell me where I got this wrong. It's like, well, you're just wrong on the premise. There is no data to back this up. You're just saying it. It's like, well, tell me where I'm wrong. It's like, well, you're wrong because you have nothing to back this up. Well, I've written books on this other thing and I had sources and da-da-da-da. It's like, cool. Go out and write a fucking book and tell me how many sources you can get to tell you that there's a link. You're not going to do it. What you're going to find is a bunch of unrelated sources that just have to do with autism or have to do with the rate of vaccines that we give kids. But that's it. That's all that you're going to find. You're just going to find correlative trends. That's it. No real causal link.
People have shown you where things are wrong, but you don't want to hear it. Is because I've seen, numerous fact checks. Dr. Vinay Prasad, who we, really respect on the COVID vaccine. He went through your interview with All In. He did a fact check. I mean, it's not.
And I did a fact check of Vinay, and you should read that.
I will take a look at it. But I don't think that it's fair to say nobody has ever pointed out anything that's been wrong.
Well, here's what people complain about what I say. And again, I'm not leading on this issue, so people can either take it or leave it. But if you
it's a public health issue.
What you just
public
said
health
about
is incredibly
me, that
important.
I'm sort of hard-headed and stubborn and just won't give in. You're wrong about that. If somebody shows me where I'm wrong, I'm going to correct it. And we have probably the most robust fact-checking operation now in North America. I have 350 PhD scientists and MD physicians on, CHD's advisory board, including until recently, Luc Montagnier won the Nobel Prize for discovering the HIV virus. Chris Portier, who's the head of the National Toxicity Program at NIH, formerly, probably the top toxicologist in America. And if I were saying things that were scientifically unsound, those people...
Well. Here's the thing. It's not about you just saying things that are wrong. It's more about, like, you can have all of those people around you, but if none of them have any, if none of them are vaccine specialists, they're not going to reach out to you because they're going to tell you, or at the very least, they're going to hope that a vaccine specialist is going to do that, or somebody who's like an expert on COVID-19 specifically. Like, at the end of the day, you can have, not every single doctor and every single scientist all share, the same, what's the word I'm looking for? It's very specific, info, right? That's not how that works. At the end of the day, they're an HIV doctor you're going to ask them, oh, what do you think of the COVID-19 vaccine? They're going to go, man, I'm an HIV doctor. I don't fucking know what's going on with fucking COVID-19. I don't know what's that's an inflammation of the chest. I don't do that. I do HIV. Why the fuck are you talking to me? And they go, but this is all science. It's like, yeah, it's all science, but that's not my field. It's like asking an immunologist about like a surgical thing. Yeah, it's all medicine. It's all medical. You learn all that stuff at medical school, but the immunologist is going to look at you and go, I don't do surgical side. That's not my field. So I whatever info I could even like raise. What are you doing? Oh, you see the hair tie, don't you? There you go. Go get it. So like, whatever information that they like disagree with you on, they have probably a bit more of an awareness, but they're not an expert on that. Like, same with like a toxicology person. They're not a fucking vaccine guy. They're toxicology.
Would not stay with us.
It's like we don't know how departments work.
Show me where I got it wrong. Show me a study where I got wrong, and I will change.
There
my
isn't
position.
a study.
Science is fluid.
The study you have is
it's not an embarrassment.
And
to
there
me.
isn't a study that disproves it.
If there's a new scientific study that I haven't seen that comes out and says I'm wrong, that's what you're supposed to do with science. But what
something
I'm saying
like
to you
isn't true.
Nobody has done that. If an A. Prasad, when he did his piece, if he showed me science that was valid,
I don't know why Crystal's letting him off.
I would say I would change my position.
If we got the two of you together,
read my response to him.
So you say this isn't what you're leading with, but I just have to say, as someone who is watching your candidacy closely,
a lot closer
and
than
is
most
aware
people.
of the advocacy you've been doing, and the organization that you are involved with, it's hard for me to believe this won't be an important part of how you govern. So I think that's the most important piece for people to get.
It is kind of important.
You have to accept there are going to be people like me who just don't agree with you on this. You certainly understand that there are many who do think that the vaccines that we have are more beneficial than harmful, that, got their kids vaccinated and are happy for that decision. So how is this going to impact the way that you govern, or does it not at all?
I mean, I'm going to govern according to, what evidence-based medicine. That's.
So let me give a specific question.
There's no evidence.
If there's another pandemic,
there's no evidence. Like, you fucking moron. There's no evidence. There is no evidence to show a link between autism and fucking vaccines. It's not there. But do you notice he doesn't get off of that? He says, "Show me a study that says there isn't a link." No, idiot. Show me one that there is a link. I'm not here to prove to you that two things are not linked together. You have to show me how they're linked. That's the fucking evidence. The evidentiary standard is on your side, not mine, and not anybody else's.
In the last pandemic, former President Trump, something we gave him a lot of credit for, he launched Operation Warp Speed.
I wish I had more water.
They had a whole of government approach. They used the mRNA technology that was developed using, U.S. taxpayer dollars to get a vaccine out to the population as quickly as possible. How would your approach have differed?
My approach would have been a science-based approach.
Which means what?
Which means and a medicine-based approach, the approach that has been used for, and approved for decades. You look first at therapeutics that are off the shelf, and you look at the efficacy of those. I mean, what I would have done if I was in power then, I would have created an information grid, because now we have this internet that is supposed to benefit us and has become
an information grid. Okay. So nothing yet.
Totalitarian control, but let's use it for something good. Let's link all 15 million doctors, frontline.
Fuck's sake, Mr. President, there is a disease rolling through the country, killing hundreds at a time. Mr. President, what should we do? Okay, we need to get everybody together and have a chat about this. This is disqualifying. This is fucking disqualifying. If you're gonna tell me, as COVID-19 is ramping up, and as the disease is starting in Washington, spreading all the way to the East Coast, and you're over here fucking jerking off about fucking getting a information grid going, motherfucker, there are lives being lost right now. This is the problem. There are fucking lives right now as we speak, as this fucking pandemic, as this disease rolls through our country. And this dude's but what if we explore our 1,000 options? How about this? How about we go with like the quick one and start to like, because again, every day, remember, we all remember how it was back then. Every day you were seeing these rolling death counts, rolling spread counts, everything else. Like, let's like these kinds of situations, move your ass. These can't be like, we need to find out every inch. No, you got to go with the best information that you have and with the best result that you have, which it was mRNA vaccines distributed by the government. That was the best way to get it to the most amount of people with the best efficacy.
Physicians all over the world and find out what they're doing to treat this new respiratory virus and find out what they're saying is working and not working.
What's up,
and then
Rose?
test that
How are you
science,
doing?
and then turn it into instantaneously into protocols and recommendations for other scientists.
So would a vaccine development
like, how long does this take? How many lives between this and like we finally get an answer?
And try to explain to me the countries that were unvaccinated.
Oh my God, Kat.
Did much better than our.
Many of those countries, because there are a lot of different factors in various countries. So a lot of those countries, as you pointed out before,
we have the highest death rate count in the world by far.
I think there are a lot of factors that may go into that.
Wait, death count? No shit, we have the highest death count. We have one of the largest populations.
One of them is the fact that we are disproportionately obese as a society. We have the negative health outcomes that you've been talking about. We don't go outside as much as countries, say in Africa. I mean, there are a lot of different factors that may play into that. But I will say, did the vaccines work in the way they were initially promised to prevent spread? No, I don't think so, especially once you got to later variants. But we have a lot of data that shows that in terms of reducing severe hospitalization and death, the vaccines were really important. And maybe there was a cost.
Yeah, like, okay, cases of mortality. U.S., 1,123,836. Like Brazil, India, Russia, like Mexico, UK, like, yeah, no shit. These are all very large population countries. This is Breaking Points, is the Crystal Ball is the woman. Sagar is the dude that hasn't shown up on screen. Well, maybe like once. And this is RFK Jr. 1 million. Fuck. You asked that as soon as I closed it. It's like one over 1.1 million, I think it was. 1.6 maybe.
Benefit
analysis. I want to see that data. I know that's what the industry says.
There, go back for a second.
May play into that. But I will say.
Yeah. And the whole thing of like, why do we have so many deaths? Well, we have one of the largest populations in the world. I think we're like, because what? China's like 2, India's 1, I think now. I wouldn't be shocked if we're, let's see, population like 330 million, right? Yeah, like we're up there in terms of population. Let's see, population, Denver. By country? 2023? Sure, give me numbers. China, India, United States. Yeah. Yeah. That's what I thought. Yeah, we're the 3rd largest country. So no shit, we're probably going to have the most, considering China like did like a full authoritarian lockdown. You know, and even then, you know that they're lying about all of their numbers. But, you know, we were still at the top because we're the 3rd largest country. Yeah, no shit. We're going to have a large death count no matter what. Probably the largest of like in the world. It's not really all that shocking. It's not really all that controversial either. And like the other reason for why we're going to have such a high death rate is because we're kind of an unhealthier group of people. That's just kind of, Americans are generally less healthy than Europeans, less healthy than, I don't know about Chinese. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know what they're, I guess probably, I don't know. But like, we're not the most healthy people. You know, I'm a testament to a bit of that. Like I work in a kitchen. I do enough active work that I'm like healthy, but like if I didn't do that job, then I would be much less healthier than I am. Yeah.
The vaccines work in the way they were initially promised to prevent spread? No, I don't think so, especially once you got to later variants. But we have a lot of data that shows that in terms of reducing severe hospitalization and death, the vaccines were really important, and maybe there was a cost-benefit analysis.
I want to see that data. I know that's what the industry says.
There is lots of data, and not just from here, from around the world, that shows the vaccine doses, and not just our vaccines, but
you also can't do the, oh, that's what the industry says. Like, I get it. The industry is corrupt, but like, what do they get out of, hey, the vaccine worked? Like, what do they get? It doesn't matter. They're on both sides of it. Corpos make the vitamins. Corpos make the vaccine. They don't care. As long as you're getting both from them, they don't give a shit. Like, it's also not an industry
all around the world.
Is,
reduce severe hospitalization and death. So in that way, yes, I do very much believe that they work.
And let me tell you something.
You'd have to also show me evidence that
you're parroting
it doesn't work.
What the public health agencies have been saying, but
well,
they do not have a scientific basis for that. And
public.
I have another book out that you should look at called Died Suddenly, that goes through all the Johns Hopkins data, which is the dashboard data that everybody uses, and shows exactly what happened when first of all, the vaccine, the Case Western study that is probably the largest, most recent, shows that at most the vaccine gives you a very, very small amount of protection, and that after 7 months, you go into negative efficacy. So you are more, if you got vaccinated, you're
then you get the booster, don't you? That's what the booster's purpose was?
Sick. You're more likely to get severe illness, and you're more likely to die than if you were unvaccinated.
I have not seen that. I have seen study after study that shows the opposite. Listen, I don't want to get bogged down in this because I don't think we're going to see eye to eye here, and we have some other questions we want to get to, and your time is short. But we'll put in post, please send us what you're looking at. We'll put what I'm looking at, and people can judge for themselves. Hey guys,
what the fuck did he say? I want to hear that.
If you got vaccinated, you're more likely to get sick. You're more likely to get severe illness, and you're more likely to die than if you were unvaccinated.
I have not seen that. I have seen study after study that shows the opposite. Listen, I don't want to get bogged down in this.
He said Johns Hopkins. I'm assuming that's what his source is. Let's see. Johns Hopkins Medicine myth virus check. Let's go. Study published August 2020 indicates that if you had COVID-19 before and are not vaccinated, your risk of getting reinfected more than 2 times higher. Getting vaccinated provides greater protection than others since the vaccine helps reduce the spread. Researchers rush the development. No, I want to know what gives you COVID-19. Side effects are dangerous. Pfizer and Moderna vaccines. What? Like, you know what really gets me too? You know what actually pisses me off that just angered the fuck out of me? Is why are we talking about this? Like, why am I reading this again? Am I currently sitting in a hot tub time machine back to like 2020? Like, god damn, why are we still on this? Didn't get vaccinated, wore a mask the first year. Yeah, like, isolate yourself. If you wear a mask and you keep your distance from people, you can actually be perfectly fine. Like, it's it can't be everybody's solution, but like, it's not the worst thing. COVID-19 vaccine was developed. Yeah, like, why am I reading this? Like, this is the worst part. Is I'm just like, why the fuck am I reading this nonsense? It's so like why are we continually relitigating this stuff over and over and over and over and over again? Like, give it a rest already. It's over. You guys survived the authoritarian takeover of our healthcare state. Like, God, people like pretend like they were so put upon by like having to, I don't know, fucking like abide by public health laws, which even then, I just can't with this. Okay. Let's shift gears because God, that's annoying. Should we talk about, actually, one second. Let me see if we have, don't play, you son of a gun. Okay, here we go. What the fuck? I'm so confused. Ooh, wait. Interesting. Okay. Should we talk about, okay. Should we talk about guns or, wait, it's Starbucks? There's a problem with Starbucks, apparently. What are people losing about Starbucks over? Let's do guns first, and then, yeah, people really like the gun topic. All right, let's go. All right, so I've done videos of this guy before responding. What's it called? I can't stand basically all of his rhetoric, and the fact that a lot of it is like, you know, corporate motivated. But Colin Noir, I think it was a former lawyer, now turned gun rights activist, content creator, because that pays way better, I guess. And show for NPR or not NPR, the NRA and a bunch of other you know, gun manufacturers. Continuously always puts out like some of these videos. I check in every once in a while. You've probably heard the old, not the old, I should say, the new statistic that the number 1 killer of children in 2023 is firearms, which surpassed like what's it called, car crashes. If I can find the chart really quickly, number 1 killer of kids. Let's see. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Also, he isn't affiliated with the NRA anymore. More than sure. Is he not affiliated with the NRA? I know he has like a bunch of, or at least last time I looked him up, he was still affiliated with them, but that might have changed recently. Let's see. Here we go. According to CDC database, nearly 3,600 children die of gun-related incidents that year. Oh, is this the chart? Yes, this is the chart. Okay. Let's do dark mode. All right. Motor vehicles. Right here in the, what is this? What, orange? No, is this orange? What color is this? Tan, maybe? Tan line. It's gone down. Let's see. At its peak, it was at 27.9. It is currently sitting in 2021 at 16.5. Cancer, let's see, went from its peak of 10.6, dropped down to 8.1, which is actually the lowest it's ever been. That's really, that's very good to hear. Very happy about that. Suffocation, weirdly, at its high of 8.4 in 2018, down to 6.2. Not quite its lowest. Lowest was in 1999. And poisoning, which weirdly skyrocketed between 2019 and 2021, up, what is that, from 4.1 to 7.2? That's fucking weird. When it started, at least in this chart, 90 and 99 at 1.6, that's odd. But the topic at hand, firearms. 11% back in 99, a pretty consistent rise to 05, a bit of a dip in 2013, big fucking jump in the 4 years between 13 and 17. And then we also see another huge jump between, what is this, 19 and 2020? Which I would kind of presume that the 2020 leap is from, is probably from people being isolated at home. Like, you kind of saw a lot of that, which also probably why we saw motor vehicle accidents drop in 2020 and in 2021. So that could also explain a bit of this. But either way, these are the numbers that we have, at least from this timeline. I'll be interested to see whenever they do, because they'll come out with an updated version of this maybe this year or next. I'll be interested to see how these continue, because again, you always have to keep in mind that like 2020 is a particularly weird year. That also might be why poisonings went up. Yeah, that's what everyone's, other gun rights coalitions. Okay, cool. Anyway, so this chart is going to get debunked. We'll see. I haven't watched this. I don't know what his argument is going to be. If it's going to be COVID, then I think that's a fair argument to make, that like, hey, we need a bit more data. But I don't find his arguments very, what's the word I'm looking for? Convincing, I guess. For a lawyer, doesn't make incredibly great arguments from my perspective, at least. But let's hear
As
him
of
out.
late, all of the politicians pushing for gun control
Hey, whoa,
and
and
the
me,
anti-Second
and me,
Amendment groups who
and
support
me.
them are saying this.
Guns are the #1 killer of children.
I mean, that is
in
true.
the United States of America.
The #1 cause of death of the children in America
This is true.
gun violence.
The #1 killer of children under the
Guns
age
are
of
the
18 in
#1
America.
because
guns are the #1 killer
in
of
America.
kids.
You
Yep.
see, these people
Yep.
are very cunning
Did I
and
keep
very
that chart up?
smart
I did.
with their communication.
Yep.
They also understand if there is one universal truth, it's that when it comes to little kids, all bets are off. We do any and everything to protect them. So they know that when you hear guns are the #1 killer of children, it sounds terrifying because you imagine.
No other country in the world experiences mass shootings and children's gun death at the rate the U.S. does, but we have to get over our denial and stop it. Also, yeah, like I said, the fact that the numbers rose in 2020 gives me a bit of pause. But I mean, it's still a data point. Like at the end of the day, it's not wrong. It's more of like probably needs some more context.
Imagine this means all of these little kids are being murdered by guns.
#1 killer.
That is until you realize that when they say kids, they mean anyone under the age of 20. And when they say killed, they're also including self-deletions and self-defense shootings by cops and civilians. You see,
Are those not valid like problems to have? I don't think that any of those are what's the word? I don't think any of those are unrelated. You could say like, oh, like a vast majority of those are going to be suicides. Okay. Would you like to address that part then? Because at the end of the day, it is guns that allow people to commit suicide in the most efficient way possible. That is kind of the reality of it. Like do I think that's a gun problem? I'm not 100% sure, but it certainly is a consequence of the loose gun laws that we have. It's a consequence of our already like established understanding and relationship to firearms.
they all got this talking point from this letter put out by the New England Journal of Medicine.
I'm 30.
This letter used
I would
CDC
say
homicide numbers to conclude
Have you
that
met
guns
18 and
are the
19-year-olds?
leading killer of kids and adolescents in the United States. But it defines.
Oh yeah, wait. Yeah, wait. Are those the numbers that this use? Let's see, CDC. Let's see, Centers of Disease Control Prevention Wonder Database. 6% of gun violence and suicide. Yep. Do I need to file a fucking the FOIA request on this? Okay, that's okay. Okay, fine. Give me a KFF analysis then. Independent source of health. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Yeah, I want to know. We examine how gun violence and other types of firearm deaths among children and teens in the United States compares to rates that similar. Wonder Database and the Institution of Health and Metrics Evaluation. We compare fatality and disability estimates. Estimates for people ages 1 through 19, since estimates were not available for children ages 1 through 17 alone. Okay, that makes sense. Young adults ages 18 and 19 are grouped with children for the purposes of the brief. Okay, I understand what they mean. So yeah, essentially the data isn't separated. Okay, okay, I understand why they have to throw that in then. Okay. We find the United States is also alone among peer nations in the number of child and teen firearm deaths. In no other similarly large or wealthy country are firearm deaths in the top 4 causes of mortality, let alone the #1 cause of death among children. Let's see. Can I get... Let's see. Oh my God. Look at, okay. These numbers are a bit, crazy, right? US, 4,000. Australia, 10. Germany, 14. Netherlands, 2. We are such an outlier on this. Congenital disease. Let's see. Still at the top of that. I mean, granted, I guess I said it earlier, we're going to have the most of everything. 32, let's see, 188. God, all of our numbers are in the fucking thousands. I mean, this might be a population issue. Yeah, it might be keep reading. 2020, let's see, US by far is the highest child and teen mortality. Yeah. Oh, wait, per 100,000? Okay. So our actual rate is fucking trash too. Okay, yeah, that's not great. Child and teen firearm deaths since 2000, while peer nations have seen a decrease. I mean, yeah, have you been in America lately? Jeez. Yeah, like we have a particularly... Yeah, we have a particularly... You know, and a lot of this, keep in mind, a lot of this is going to be because we don't have a functional healthcare system. Like, part of this problem is part of the problem with that 64% of gun violence is suicide. Part of that problem, absolutely, is mental health, is the inaccess of mental health for Americans. But the other half of that is the ease at which people are able to obtain guns. Even if you solve the problem of like a lot of our mental health issues, the problem with like, even if like under a socialized like healthcare system like I want, right? Something where everybody has access to doctors and everything else, right? At like no or very, very little cost. The issue with that is that you're still going to see these knee-jerk gun purchases and immediate suicides. Like you're still going to see that. I think no matter what, addressing both of those issues are twofold. You know, obviously one would be like, you know, offering those kinds of services, giving more access to people will bring that number down, obviously. But in terms of like for the guns, it's like, well, you know, if people are going to make knee-jerk decisions, how do we put stop gaps in front of those? And it's really simple. You put waiting periods, because waiting periods are shown to be one of the most effective for people who are just in a bad spot on that one day. Usually your suicidal ideation, like the momentary, like, you know, where you're going to really take action doesn't last as long as maybe the depression might, but like the action part of that isn't going to last as long. So you want to kind of stop that like action. You know, you want to kind of put a gap between you being able to take action and you wanting to take action, basically. So that's also why, like, you know, I think, you know, waiting periods are a good fix to that. It's very simple. It doesn't, you know, it's not inconvenient. It's fine. Federally. They do. Unfortunately, in terms of federally, at least here in Colorado, sadly, that's not really, it is 10 days minus 10, sadly. Because, well, it can be that federally, but unfortunately the Supreme Court's already, I'm pretty sure the Supreme Court's already ruled that that the federal government can't even pass something like that, or that states' individual, like, gun laws are in and of themselves, like, separate. Like, you don't have to bother with federal, the federal law, I'm pretty sure.
Children and adolescents, homicide numbers to conclude that guns are the leading killing point from this letter put out 20. And when they...
It is currently in effect. Yeah, I'm sure it is, but I don't think states actually have to abide by that. Let's find out. Effect. Federal 10-day waiting period. Stop. It's mandatory, then broke the law several times then. Let's see. What states have periods for gun purchases? California, Rhode Island, and DC. Statutory waiting period on all firearm purchases subject to limited exceptions. Let's take a look. What is this? This is Law Center. Under 21. Oh, did you put under 21? Okay. Never mind. I'm not. Well, wait. How old was I? No, technically I was in Virginia where you don't have to register. So I just, well, I got mine from my parents. Well, by my dad. Waiting periods, possession. Okay, I forgot you said under 21. Okay, that might be the case then. I didn't see the 21 part, or at least if I did, it just didn't process. That is probably good. Thank you for mentioning that again. I totally would have missed that.
Say killed, they're also including self-deletions and self-defense shootings by cops and civilians. You see, They all got this talking point from this letter put out by the New England Journal of Medicine. This letter used CDC homicide numbers to conclude that guns are the leading killer of kids and adolescents in the United States. But it defines children and adolescents as a person 1 to 19 years of age.
And we know that because the data set doesn't come with them separated.
That's why I checked, an 18 and 19-year-old is an adult, not an adolescent or a child. And as the Crime Prevention Research Center so aptly puts it, their measure of defining children for everyone 19 and under is crucial because there's a lot of gang violence for 17, 18, and 19-year-olds. The notion that banning guns is going to stop this drug gang violence is simply not serious.
The notion that anybody wants to ban firearms is also not serious. This is my problem. It's always the notion. It's always an argument against the banning of guns, to which nobody can be. Nobody's arguing for a full-on ban of firearms in the United States. It's just not happening. Not only that, Americans even on the left aren't in favor of like sweeping bans. Like that's the part that really irritates me with this, which it's always the tactic of this guy and a lot of other like 2A activists. They only know how to argue against a ban, like a full-on like absurd ban. They only know how to argue against like a hypothetical.
You are going to be as successful in stopping gangs from getting guns as you are from stopping them from getting illegal drugs to sell. Defining children is as including people who...
Is this just the transcript? Okay. People who are 18, 19 has been a common approach by gun control advocates. It is common that 70 to 80% of firearm injuries for those under 20 involve 17, 18, 19-year-olds. Okay. Okay. But are the victims of that below those ages? Like, that's kind of, who are the people who are 17, 18, 19, and 20 involved with? Like younger kids or people in their 30s? Like, either way. Legally tried as an adult, can get drafted, non-tax exempt. Yeah.
Who are 18 and 19 has been a common approach by gun control advocates.
Are you saying
it's common that 75
I would say, like,
of
from a
firearm
cultural
injuries
standpoint,
for
or at
those
least like
under 20 involve 17, 18, and 19-year-olds. Then there's
19-year-olds are not adults. I was not an adult when I was
in
19.
these numbers. There is no
Absolutely
reason for
not.
self-deletion numbers to be included in this stat. Because in places where guns are banned, total self-deletion rates remain unchanged. People just simply change how they self-delete. But they want to keep...
Wait a minute. Go back.
Because in places where guns are banned, total self-deletion rates remain unchanged. People just simply...
Right. Okay. So do you... Wait. But that's not the argument. The argument is that if there were guns, the argument is if there were guns, or actually, let's take a look. Let's take a look at... I know exactly what state to look at. Massachusetts. All right. Actually, no. We just want suicide rate. Here we go. Can I? Fuck. I want yearly data. Oh no. Wait. Okay. When did Massachusetts pass their gun laws? Massachusetts gun laws. Here we go. Residents 15 years and older who wish to possess, carry, or transport. When? I type in when. Massachusetts. Here we go. Mass.gov. I just want to know what year. I know it wasn't. Let's see. Gun laws in Massachusetts. Oh, here we go. State permit required. Can I get a year for any of these? Licensing, types of firearms, assault weapons, firearms storage, non-citizen permits, other laws. Types of... God damn it. Oh, is it 20... As of 2015, we'll no longer issue A and B licenses to carry. There will just be single LTC, which is identical to a firearm identification card. License, which allows purchase of... Okay, let's go 2015. Let's use 2015 as like a... Because this is going to affect a lot of gun ownership in the state. Let's use 2015. I want to see... show me Massachusetts. No, I just wanted to see it on here. Let's see, name or location. What the fuck? Is this not Arizona, California? Oh, I'm just stupid. All right, Massachusetts. Death rate. Wait, is this? Yeah. Okay. Suicide mortality. Okay. 8 in 2021. What was it in? Fuck it. Let's go 2005. I want to take a look. 7.2. Okay. Why is there this huge fucking gap? I want to see like yearly numbers. Because I'm curious, mainly because I'm curious to see that, what's it called? Yeah, 8.2. So is it, okay, so it stayed flat then. Yeah, because the question would have to be, with more access to firearms, are more people successfully committing suicide? Which 2016's 8.8. I would need to like find like year-to-year data. MassGov maybe? I don't, let's see. Massachusetts, maybe suicide rate per year, maybe? I don't know if this is something that people, I don't want just gun deaths, because I know gun deaths are going to go down, but I'm like curious about the most, now has the lowest gun death rate. I mean, it does. We know that. Kaiser Fanju states. Oh, wait, hold. Yeah, because the thing is we know that if you're in a state with stricter gun laws, the firearm mortality rate goes down significantly. Homicides comprise of, suicides comprise nearly 3 and 5. Comprised. I don't know why I said compromised. Nearly 3 and 5. Okay. Interesting. Oh, wait. Ooh, this might. Gun deaths by intent. Suicide in 2019. Over time. Here we go. This is exactly what I wanted. Okay, let's see. Going back to 2010, we're at what, 2? And we've seen since 2019, it's actually gone down a bit. Not a huge lot, but it has reduced a bit. Huge reduction in what is this, 2013 to about 2016. Do you need to walk like right in? Okay, that's cool. County variations. Gun deaths per 100,000. I don't know Berkshire. The real question is going to be on these, what the populations are, because that's going to be like the biggest thing. Yeah, so let's see. Second lowest in the U.S. Okay, so that's for gun law implementation versus overall suicide rate. Well, I'm looking specifically for firearm suicides. That's what, like, because that's the largest share of what's deemed as gun violence, I want to see what the result is, which it seems like, at least according to what is this? Educational Fund to Stop Gun Violence. At least this org, which take that as a source what you will. They do have the second slowest suicide rate by gun violence, which tells you that like there is an argument that that stricter gun laws is even going to reduce your suicide rate. Because the idea that he was positing was that it doesn't matter if you restrict guns, the suicide rate won't move. But it's second since then, which tells me that there is some kind of, I don't know about causation, but some correlative link there. I don't know if it's like 1 for 1. He was arguing though. Was he not? That's fine. We'll go back.
Involve 17, 18, and 19-year-olds. Then there's the issue including self-deletions in these numbers. There is no reason for self-deletion numbers to be included in this stat, because in places where guns are banned, total self-deletion.
Keep in mind, so the reason why I picked Massachusetts is Massachusetts has, if I remember correctly, the strictest gun laws in the country and has the lowest rate of gun death in the country. Let me be clear. There's a reason why I picked, I hyper focus on Massachusetts, because it's the one that's made the most progress and is right now number 1 in terms of, what's it called? In terms of low gun death rates.
Rates remain unchanged. People just simply change how they self-delete. But they want to keep those numbers in there because by places where guns are banned, total self-deletion rates remain unchanged. People
that doesn't seem to be true whatsoever. Like, yeah, they don't like, let's take a look. I wish I could find what year the very specific set of laws. I'm pretty sure it's over the last like 10 years. I remember listening to like an advocate in a debate between Colion and this other guy, but I don't remember what year he said that they implemented a lot of their gun control laws. But you see this huge drop here from 2012 to 2013. So I'm curious if that's the year that they pass a lot of this. You're looking at does not fit the argument you're trying to make. I don't know. Tell me why. I just want to see the suicide rate for gun deaths, and if it's changed at all, then I think that's at least a bulwark to his argument that like the suicide rate, like, because the idea that like the suicide rate won't go down if you restrict firearms, I think is kind of ridiculous. Firearms are the most effective way to do that, and if you take away the most effective way, I think it only makes sense that you're going to see a reduction in overall suicide. That's all I'm arguing. Unless he's arguing something else, for an overall decrease in gun suicides, you should be looking at the overall suicide rate. I mean, I could. Wouldn't the overall suicide rate, that's gonna, well, okay. So we've seen that, okay. In that case, Massachusetts suicide rate then? Yeah, I like CDC data. Even, yeah, oh, this is pulling from, okay, whatever. Where are we? Massachusetts. Massachusetts, where are you? There it is. Yeah, so what was it? That was 2013. There was like some huge, fuck, why did I close that tab? History. Fuck. I don't remember what fucking all. What did I use? Educational fund. This is what I used. Okay, here we go. Yeah, because I want to see 2012 to 2013. I want to see if there's a drop. You should be looking for a decrease after implementation. Yeah, I know. I just don't remember what they don't have 2013. That's like also the bitch about this. Like they have 2005 data and then 2014. I want to see that drop because you are kind of right. Yeah, because I want to see this drop. I'm assuming this is big enough that you can see. I want to see this drop from 2012 to 2013. I want to see this in this, but those 2 years we don't even have. It jumps from 05 all the way up to 14. Let's see, Massachusetts. No consistent data. I don't know why there's like this huge fucking gap, unless it just wasn't, what's it called? Highest suicide rate, Wyoming, Alaska, New Mexico. Also, yeah, like I would also kind of argue a little bit from what data we have on, let's see, even from what data we have on here, like, what do you think are states that have freer gun laws? Are they Wyoming, Wisconsin, West Virginia? Like, these are, like, Wyoming's fucking 32, almost doubling Wisconsin. I don't know what, Georgia, what's Georgia's numbers? Fuck, I didn't want to do that. Georgia is at 15.3. Where's the, oh, there we go. That's the number I want. No, wait, that's not, what the fuck is this organization? What? Excuse me? 3215? What? Why are you not organizing per, that's fucking stupid. Yeah, like Colorado, oh geez, Colorado's up there too. Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Deep South, yeah. 2021. I wish we had more updated numbers too. These are 2 years old at this point. Texas. But yeah, like Colorado, we have really, really like lax gun laws. I don't know. I actually don't know New Mexico's gun laws. Oklahoma. Well, I don't know what the fuck's going on with Wyoming and Montana. I'm not, or even the Dakotas. Not sure what's going on there. Maine's a bit oddly high. Yeah. But yeah, like when we're talking about like, I have no doubt, or at the very least, I'd be interested to see, because I think it's ridiculous to say that if you take away the most efficient way for people to kill themselves, that there won't be less, less of that. The quicker and easier it's going to be. Yeah, what are some constitutionals? Yeah, that's a good one. Constitutional carry states. Let's see. Gun capital. Yeah, really. Let's see. Yeah, and they're fucking like gun homicide rates super fucking high. State. God damn it. United States term constitutional carry also permitless carry. Yeah, this is definitely Colorado. Yeah, I know. Can I just get a list, please? There we go. Concealed carry required to obtain. Ooh. Permit required. Oh God, yeah. Okay, so it's. Oh, interesting. Okay, wait. Okay. Let's keep this chart in mind. Can I pull this up? I can. Okay. Where was it? Fuck. No, give me that back. All right. Like, let's take a look. Okay, so the green is the constitutional carry states. And like this tracks almost perfectly. Look at this. Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, all three of those, the green one. Yeah, like, look, yeah, the best one is fucking Nebraska. Look at Nebraska. Nebraska over here, the outlier in the Midwest, and the outlier here. Because I think, what was the permit required? Yeah, permit is required in Nebraska. And you can see how much of how that outlier, like, makes such a difference. Like, you can kind of see how it obviously trends that the suicide rate's going to be higher. Like, yeah, obviously, you have like your Oregon, your Indiana, your Nevada, Utah, some of those that are obviously like still pretty bad, but like, geez. Florida, I didn't know you had to get a permit for Florida. Where is Alaska on here? Oh, Alaska's down there. Okay. Not even. No, I think this is kind of like, it's not like 1-to-1, not at all. Like the suicide rate, I think, is pretty, what's it called? But it's like the weird one is Colorado and New Mexico for how deep they are, even though actually that's not, wait. Permit required. That's not true at all. This is actually an outdated. When was this? Required to obtain concealed carry permit. Oh, this is concealed carry. Fuck. Well, actually, no. Yeah. Permit not required. Yeah, that is right. Yeah, never mind. Colorado, you do have to have it. Yeah, that's true. Interesting. Yeah, like that's a bit interesting. Nebraska's the most interesting part of this. Just because that's so different, and then it with requirements set to be eliminated in the future. Oh, that sucks. That's probably, I'd be interested to see what their suicide rate's going to be once the permit is eliminated, actually. Okay, should we get back to the video? I'll keep this tab open just because I'm pretty sure we can close the Massachusetts ones. I'll keep this open though. Should we pull up the Fuck it, I'll pull up the usual one. I should really have this as a link at this point. CDC gun violence rate. Da, da, da. There it is. No, I want the chart. Give me the same one that I always go to. States. Yep, stats by states. There it is. Fire mortality by state. Yep. I'll just keep this open for now. Might be relevant, might not. I don't know. Anyway, let's back to the video. Now.
People just simply change how they self-delete. But they want to keep those numbers in there because by excluding firearm self-deletions, it would reduce the number from CDC by 30 to 35%. Then there's the issue of using homicide.
What's really weird to me also, so what's weird to me about this argument is that like they pretend like firearms that people buy to commit suicide are somehow different or somehow like subject to different laws or regulations or anything. Like they're all firearms. Like at the end of the day, the way in which people, you know, are able to get these specific firearms and do what they want, you know, do what they're going to do with them, those are all under the same auspices as everybody else is able to access firearms. So, like, the access is the problem. If it's surprising that the Deep South, renowned for its liberal gun laws, it's a pretty low average suicide rate. Down here? Yeah. I would also say, yeah. I would also say that that's pretty, I would think that that's a little bit higher, but also you have to keep in mind, what's it called? I wouldn't be shocked if there's a little bit more, honestly, same with New York up here. You would, yeah, like you would think New York and like Illinois and the big lib ones. But yeah, I mean, from what I understand from talking to people who are from, like I have a couple coworkers that are kind of from Oregon and like kind of up in the northwesty area, not Washington, but like this sort of region. What I find interesting is like also the drug usage up there, because there's really not a lot of like stuff to do. That's like the vibe I get. I don't have data. This is like my personal conversations, but like the vibe I get from a lot of them when they talk about like, you know, living up in like Wyoming or any of those states, they're just like, I'm bored a lot of the times. There's not a lot to do. There aren't city centers. There aren't. So like you kind of have to end up making your own like fun. So that might be why, and like being isolated because of the way that like, you know, everyone's really spread out in a state like Wyoming or Montana, that might lead to a lot of isolation and like cabin fever. And that might just result from people, you know, committing more deletions, I suppose. I don't, you know, I don't think it's I'm not sure if it's a like I do think it's always going to be an access to firearms will always be an element. I don't know if it's the number one element, especially when it comes to suicides. Mental health is always going to be the best way to address that. But yeah, that's kind of the vibe I've gotten from people. Is they're like, yeah, when you live in like really fucking rural states, you like drink a lot, you do a lot of drugs, and you fuck around because there's just not that much to do. In Alaska. Nothing. That's the thing. There's nothing to do in fucking Alaska. You're like stuck inside so often. That's also the thing. Like we saw the suicide rate climb a little bit during like COVID, didn't we? And it's because when people are isolated, we're social creatures. It might just be that in these more spread out states, that's why you see a lot of that. And that's why you don't see it as much in Florida. Florida's become a lot more populous the last like, what's it called? The last like, what, 20, 25 years, I'd say. Florida, as far as I know, Florida hasn't had the reputation that it's had since like forever. It's not like Florida's always been, you know, Florida man, Gators, and old MAGA hats. Like that's not always been the thing with Florida. Growing up, Florida was just the state everyone goes to vacation in. But the last like 20 years, Florida, I think probably since the 2000 election, Florida really moved in this in a really conservative fashion. But yeah, I mean that might be. Now, when we're talking about the southern states, it's usually firearm mortality, which is going to include a lot of this is going to include I think this is like all firearm like violence overall. This one's just strictly suicide. But yeah, like these not great in that term. Same with goddamn. Well, New Mexico's right near the border. I'm not super shocked by that. New Mexico's also probably a state you see a lot of cartel activity. Same with Arizona, I would presume. God, Louisiana and Mississippi, Jesus. Anyway, let's finish this up, shall we? With the Mississippi, yeah.
Numbers versus murder numbers. Homicides include murder plus self-defense shootings from cops and civilians. It is brutally deceptive to include self-defense shootings in a stat used to justify restricting guns that people use for self-defense. So you're wondering, what's the number difference when you account for all of the deceptive definitions?
Well, unfortunately, if you notice, they this is a categorization error, and it's really not an error. It's they're counting. This is the result of guns in our society. That's just the number that they're giving you. I think there's an argument to be made of like, all right, we could probably take a few of these out, but to take something out, you would have to argue that no gun restriction would affect that. And I don't think restricting access would have no effect on suicides. Generally, I believe that if you restrict guns a bit, not a full ban, never in support of a full ban, you're going to see some reduction in suicides because people just won't have access to the easiest way. That's just, I'm not going to say common sense, but like that seems to kind of be the thing, the thinking in, I would assume. Anyway, continue.
Definitions I just mentioned. Well, if you use their inflated numbers in 2020 and 2021 for those under the age of 20, more of that age range died from guns versus car deaths, which is usually number one. However, when you account for just the age range, i.e. those under the age of 18, things change. And from 2019 to 2021, guns are not the highest killer of children and adolescents. So the next time someone tries to use this soundbite in a conversation about guns,
okay.
Guns are the number one killer of children in America.
Send them this video along with this t-shirt I'm wearing. Guns are common sense. Because clearly people don't realize that comments.
Like the thing that bothers me about his content also is it's all like merch. That's all it is. It's merch sales. It's like none of this, like there's a reason why he has all of these firearms in the background and wears these nice shirts and has the nice hats, all this stuff. It's because he's paid by somebody to push a lot of this stuff. Any normal gun owner is perfectly like comfortable with like common sense restrictions. The goal of this guy is to turn every argument into they're trying to ban all of our guns. You need to oppose every single restriction. When most gun owners all believe there should be pretty basic ones and that we should be enforcing really basic ones. This dude has talked complained about registering your firearms because, he's got some conspiracy about creating a national registry, to which at the end of the day, I can't help but say, if you're against a national registry, then I don't want to hear about your Blue Lives Matter. A national registry would actually help track illegal firearms a lot better than anything else. Like at the end of the day, like we don't lose anything from a national registry. We don't lose anything from, universal background checks. I get it. It's inconvenient when private people want to trade their guns. I get it. It's inconvenient. You don't want to have to fill out paperwork the same way you do for like selling your car. But I'm sorry, like, guns are kind of something that, something that you have to prove, I think, that you can be responsible with. The same way we do for cars. I don't think this is really a stretch for most people. I think it's a stretch only for 2A extremists like this guy. But that's just me. It's not an error. It is an intentional manipulation of the data set to support the bogus claim. I think what it is it's data selection. It's like at the end of the day, nothing that they said is wrong. It's that has a problem with the definition and data set that he doesn't like, which that's fair. Like if you want to make the argument of like, oh, well, this is a bit like not quite accurate or like this, that, or the other, that's fine. But like at the end of the day, the data is still the data. I think I said it earlier in like a different, when we were doing the RFK thing in the beginning, you can find almost any data set to support the thing that you're trying to look for, as long as you get rid of like certain, as long as you like omit certain data points, right? Like data, just raw data is just a tool to get you to, I think this, I have these specific data points to get me to that justification. And when we're talking about passing laws, like at the end of the day, like you can compile all the data you want. The other half of it is convincing people that, hey, this is a meaningful change that we want to make to society. And I think, again, the meaningful change that this guy is challenging, that people want to engage with, is a harmless one. It's like, you know, universal background checks. It's maybe some, like, you know, to get a firearm, you have to complete a safety course. Like, it's a lot of really basic stuff, but they have to fight every single inch for this stuff, because if they don't, then, you know, he's not going to get paid. He's only getting paid as long as there aren't new gun restrictions passed. That's how this game is working. They're illegal firearms. Well, no. So, okay, let me explain the registering thing with the legal firearms. The reason why. So, no gun, right, that's going to be used in, like, you know, some cartel shooting, right? That firearm, that, let's say AK-47, right? That AK-47 had to be manufactured in a factory somewhere, right? If you have required registration and like, you know, serialization and a lot of other stuff, right? When let's say you know, you're a truck, you're transporting a shipment of AK-47s, right? And let's say you know, maybe the cartel, I'm assuming this is how they get it. I don't actually know how they get a hold of them. They probably just buy them, but let's be really crazy here. Let's say you're like a cartel group, you go and you rob this truck full of firearms to you know, to hand out to all of your guys, right? What's going to happen is once those all, like, basically exit the legal system, the government can then look and go, okay, we have a batch of firearms that now are outside of the legal bounds. How do we find those? Well, eventually, somebody's either going to use them in an assault or try to maybe sell them to somebody. And if there is going to be, like, a requirement for background checks, or if they try to sell it to, like, a pawn shop or something like that, whenever they make a mistake, they will be able to then, the law enforcement, ATF, whoever the fuck investigates that, is now able to track where that firearm started and where it's now ended up. And from there, like, you're not always going to be able to track it all the way back, but, you know, even if it's something, even if it's like a few breadcrumbs, you can then begin to tie firearms back to certain individuals, certain sellers. Then you can find out where are these firearms being, you know, kind of falling outside of the system. Like when it, like this kind of same thing happens, you know, from a less crazy case, if somebody robs, like, a gun store and you know, steals, you know, something, you know, or even if, like, you know, you have some gun dealer who, like, is in with the local gang, right? Like, once they use that firearm in a homicide, and, like, if it's registered to that store, whatever, you can track it back to the owner, and then you can track that owner through other purchases or other sales that he's made to figure out where are some other guns. Like, once you create a registry, there's, like, a net, essentially, for tracking the actual firearms in the country. Now, in the United States, that's a little difficult because there's a lot of people who own a lot of unregistered firearms, but at the very least, a registry puts some of those into an official system, which allows us to track them in some form or fashion going into the future. Also, Helderos, I don't know, you probably don't know this. Let me double check to make sure. Oh my, Helderos, congratulations. Congratulations to you. I want you to know, you are the 69th follower, the magical 69th follower. Congratulations. If I had a thing, here, we'll do, can I play the thing again? Maybe I can do that. We'll do this. We'll do this. Replay it, damn you. This is for you. You get a second one. You get a second one. You are number 69. You did it. So proud of you. You get 2. You're the only one who's ever going to get 2, by the way. If anybody ever says anything, you're going to be like, I got 2 notifications for my follow because I was number 69. So, can't follow when you're at. No, do it. No, it's fine. It's fine. No, please. Don't. God damn it. No, you're cool, Quinn, Rich. How do you pronounce that? Swen? Is it Swen? Is it Quinn? Do I just not bother with the C? It's when. Maybe it's when. Anyway. But yeah, that's that. Like, registration, the same thing with cars. Like, it's hard to steal cars and not track them back to somebody, the last person it was registered to. It's the reason why even like, stealing cars isn't as easy to do in 2023 as it was probably back in the day or whatever. It's just once you have a registration history, it's easy to track stuff. That's my own thing. Pronounced English speakers just can't. Is it? I worked at IKEA for a bit. I had to learn some really weird pronunciations of words. But I mean, my last name is like German, and nobody pronounces it right. So I'm with you right there. The rest is any more of this? Is the rest of this just ads and follow me on? Yeah, it's just ads and follow me. Okay, we're not doing that. Anyway, yeah, I don't, like I said, I'm not crazy about Colin Noir's arguments. They're always like, Winrich is German. Ooh, I mean, I'm not German at all. I'm adopted. It's just my last name is. But so I'm okay. Let's see. Would it be Wenrich? Is that what it is? Ooh, is it Wenrich? I also don't know how pronunciation is for German. Anyway, do that and do this. Okay, let's see. Should we do? Matt Walsh was complaining about Pride Month. Should we? Close. The end of the CH sound is still wrong. Wenreich? No. That's basically the same thing I just said. What would it be? CH? Wenreich? Oh, yeah. Isn't it Wenreich? Is it like Riche? Isn't it like a Riche kind of sound? Ooh, how much water? Not a lot. Okay. Okay, let's take a look. What's going on? Didn't mean to do that. Yes, that's it. Got him. Wenreich. Wenreich. That's a cool name. Very cool name. Let's see. I can close this now, I think. We're done with the gun talk. Okay. I probably have time for like one. We could probably do like one more segment, I think. Maybe two. I mean, I guess we could. What time is it? It's 7. I have another. Yeah. You know what? Fuck it. We're just going to do all of it. Okay. So, because I believe in democracy, there are 3 videos that I had planned. It's going to be these 3. I'll zoom in so you guys can like see. Oh my God, that's too zoomed in. Okay, there we go. Hit me with a 1, 2, or 3, if whichever one interests you most, I guess. While I'm gonna get more water, actually. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get more water. Let me know of those 3 topics, which one sounds most interesting. 2 of them is probably gonna be me raging. The third one seems like a more wholesome video that I think is like useful to kind of, have some discourse around. But I'm gonna go get water. I'll be back. My hat. Mr. Neutral, you're so sleepy. okay with Miso being out there now? He like sprinted for his life. All right. Ugh. Put that there. All right. Let's take a look. All right. Since no one said anything, we're just going top to bottom then. Done this to yourselves. All right. Let's zoom back out because oh God. Okay. I have bad eyes, but I don't have that bad of eyes. All right, let's go. Starbucks. What's the problem here? Okay, so for anybody who's not oh my God. All right, so for anybody who's not an American, you might be kind of shocked or like confused as to the moment we're having over here in the States. A bit of the like, why are Americans like this? Why are we having debates? Why are they having debates in the United States about abortion, something that they solved like 40, 50 years ago? Why is there such this backlash to trans people, to gay people, all the rest of this stuff? Well, unfortunately, we are living in a particularly, holy shit, we are in a particularly ornery time for gay and otherwise, LGBT folk in general. And one of the leaders of that has been Daily Wire's Matt Walsh, a theocratic fascist and quite frankly, unimpressive person. But either way, even though, again, unimpressive guy, he has made it to quite a large prominence here on the internet and especially on YouTube until I was told he was like leaving YouTube, but it seems like he just came back because leaving YouTube is just kind of a thing people say they're going to do and, to kind of boost their numbers momentarily. And then they come back to the platform because they know that they're going to need the platform. It's whatever. Because of this, because of his very dogged obsession with trans people, we've seen a real rise in the I suppose the narrative of wokeness and everything else and everything that comes in between that. They've had it out for like Starbucks for a while, ever since, everyone, maybe if you're in the US, you remember Starbucks Gate, back in the day where it was like, oh, they took Merry Christmas off of the Starbucks cup. I'm so oppressed or whatever. And, back then, that was the, what's the word? That was the big, network that was pushing a lot of this stuff. Now that Fox News isn't quite as powerful as they used to be and not quite as prominent, it's kind of made its way onto the internet. And now we're seeing kind of an evolved version of that. But either way, let me read this really long chat here from Helderose, and then we'll get into the video. We already have serial numbers. We do on firearms. We can already track the ownership of the firearms. Yep. And there's already ways that it's circumvented. Yep. The majority of stolen firearms they get from mules have their serial numbers defaced or are unreadable. The only use registry is for the government to say what firearm is people is supposed to have in their possession, and there are only 3 ways that I can see that being used. It's true. I just think a registry I feel like the nervousness about a registry is overplayed. That's what we can do all of these things. I just think a registry is like one more what's the word I'm looking for? Like one more way to kind of track how many firearms are going through like people's hands, It's just it's another tool, I guess, in the ability to be able to, properly know and track where the firearms are in the country. We do have all of that stuff. Obviously people like break the law, all the rest of that stuff. Like I said, just one more tool. Number one, you get pulled over, and when cop runs your plate and he sees the owner of a vehicle as a firearm owner, he is conditioned to treat you like a threat or a criminal. You would think that. I don't really know if that's universal. I feel like, because I've known people who because we've seen it in the past. I shouldn't say I know. I do know people who illegally carry firearms, but there are I don't know if that's necessarily true, because there are people who live in rural America who are gun owners who don't have a standoffish who don't have standoffish interactions with police. I think the nervousness around firearm ownership is a lot more social than it is like, are you a firearm owner? Are you not? I remember, like, you saw, I think it was Philando Castile, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he was like a firearm owner, had a license and everything else. Still ended up getting a really negative response from an officer giving him that information. When it comes to policing specifically, I think like the ownership of firearms doesn't really change their approach to you so much as their relation to you. So like, if like, here's a good example. If I got pulled over, right, from one of my dad's coworkers, by the way, I come from a police family. But if I get pulled over from one of like my dad's like coworkers, they know that like I own firearms, right? They know that, but that's not going to factor into the way that they talk or treat or interact with me, because they know me personally. And that's for a lot of police interactions. If you know the police, if you ever went to school, if you ever had a security officer, or we had like a couple security officers at my school, the kids who kind of get into a lot of trouble, do you notice that they have, they kind of have a different relationship than you to like your resource officer, your security officer at your school? Do you notice that they're kind of a little bit more, I guess, have more of a friendly relationship? I think it's because a big part of policing, I believe, is about your relationship to the people that you're policing. If you don't know them, then the presence of a firearm makes you really nervous. If you do know them, the presence of a firearm doesn't do anything for you. It's why I'd argue for more, I don't know, I remember what the term would be. I guess it's localized police, I suppose, especially in inner city areas where you see a lot more, just a lot more prevalence of crime. Because if you go to, I don't know, Wyoming, right? You go to Wyoming and you get pulled over by your local sheriff, it's not going to mind that you have a rifle in the back, or even if you have a revolver on you or whatever, because they know you. There's only 100 people in your town. They know you personally. They're not going to be worried about that. Your relationship to police, I think, is much more indicative of your interactions you're going to have than like if you own a firearm or not. Not to say that it doesn't impact you at all, but I think it's more important to have a relationship with the police, or with not even the police, with an officer, like with that person. 2, the ATS comes to your door without a warrant, and if let's see, ATF comes to your door without a warrant, and if you still have a certain firearm in your possession, and if you refuse to comply with them, they will come back with a warrant and destroy your house. This is already happening. Can you send me an example of this? I'd like love to see it. I've never heard of this happening, so if so, then that's pretty sus. But I have not heard that that's a thing that happens to normal people. Also, yeah, certain firearm in your possession. Also, I don't even know if there should be like with a registry. I don't really think that affects what you can have. I just think it affects like your I guess your like reporting, I suppose. Like, I don't care as like from a legal standpoint. I don't care which file. I don't care if you own like 10 AR-15s. What I care about is if you're not telling me you own 15 and you're telling me that you own 10. That's a bit suspicious to me. But like what you own isn't really isn't really the issue, I think, as much as it's, I suppose, a bit, I suppose suspicious is the only word I can use if you're like refusing to disclose the firearms that you have purchased legally. Because it's not like, if you own like a car and like you get into a car crash, it's not registered to you or whatever, that's kind of suspicious, right? Like, usually this is what I mean. Okay, cool. Let's take a look. God damn it, Health Rose. We were done with the gun talk, but you know what? You're number 69, so you get to prolong. That's the rule I just made up. All right, let's take a look. Transition. ATF agents going door to door looking for guns. ATF conducts surprise inspections at man's home without warrant video. Okay, so we talked earlier about about narratives. ATF agents going door to door, be careful what that conjures in your mind. Is this the ATF is going after a specific guy because there's evidence that he might be acting in a odd manner, or is this they are going on Syracuse Street and just knocking on every door? That is two very different things, but we'll watch the video. Also, creepy music to make you scared.
Welcome back, everybody. As you can probably tell, we are not at home. I am on the road for something not related to the channel, but this story just broke today as of when I'm recording this, probably yesterday as of when I'm releasing this video. So for the title that you guys read, the ATF has shown up at people's houses who bought more than one firearms and is asking to inspect them. So before I get into the details, I'm going to roll in the homeowners ring camera footage that has been released so you guys can see it. And then
one second. Yellow. You want to try one? Ooh. How do I feel about this pierogi? Pretty good. I mean, you should have had a sour cream, right? Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. That could use, I mean, it's good, but yeah, sour cream would be the, That's good though. Do I get to keep this? Okay, sweet. I'll take this for now. When I'm done, I can run to Walmart. That's closer. I don't think they sell sour cream at the gas station. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they don't. Yeah, I can run to Walmart real quick and grab some sour cream. But thank you. Homemade pierogies, am I right? Okay. Fuck. Huge desk, and yet I have no room for anything. Okay, let's see. Okay, a bit weary that. Okay, we're gonna keep watching.
After that, we're gonna come back here and discuss it.
I get nervous about channels where their first link is buy my t-shirt.
Verifying that you have it. You got 2 different purchases. Okay. If you have them, I'm out of here. That's how quick it is. Yeah. You have them with you by any chance? Are they? If you can unload them and bring them out, or you can go out to your foyer here, check them out, by serial number, and we're out of here.
That's it?
Yep.
That's it. It'll take 5 seconds. The reason we're out here is we're obviously gun violence has been an uptick, so we want to make sure we've been having a lot of issues with straw purchases. So one of the things indicators that we get is somebody makes a large gun purchase.
Okay, sorry. I want what's it called? Because I hear him in the background.
We're obviously gun violence has been an uptick, so we want to make sure we've been having a lot of issues with straw purchases. So one of the things indicators that we get is somebody makes a large gun purchase.
Okay.
And then a lot of times we've been there like, oh, those guns got taken. We're like,
So the idea is when you purchase more than 2 guns at a time, it generates a multiple sale report. You come to us and we have to check them out. That's all that is. You did nothing wrong. Did absolutely zero. I noticed that you were stopped in Philly, though, right, with one of your guns?
we'll wait. Do you feel more comfortable? I'm okay. I didn't expect.
Oh no! But listen, it just came up. I'm telling you. That's why we came here. Look, there's an email.
Okay, yeah. So we'll finish it, but no, I don't like. This is the thing. This is the thing about this. This is how law enforcement works. This is how, and personally, if you ask me, this is actually a pretty friendly and I think really reasonable interaction that they're having. Because if you're telling me like, oh, we find that a lot of a marker for straw purchases are going to be when people buy multiple firearms and then, obviously distribute them to somebody else or, whoever they're buying them for. We find that that's like the most prevalent way in which they go about that. So, when that comes up, a file somewhere on a spreadsheet, your name gets popped up when you buy multiple firearms, and they go, okay, let's go knock on their door, make sure that, they're, probably not, but let's make sure that this person isn't breaking the law. This is like, especially this sort of interaction, I don't really see a problem with. I know it's kind of painted to seem really scary, but when you really strip away kind of the fervor, I don't see what's scary about this. Like, they're having a very calm conversation. He's got paperwork. He's like, look, I just need to confirm that you have them and that you didn't buy it and hand it to somebody else. That's it. Like, that's all I need. There isn't really much of a conversation. You didn't break the law, but this is a way that we make sure that people aren't doing that, because you can't really like enforce a straw purchase law until the person who uses the gun they legally obtained breaks the law. Then you got to track it back to the original guy who bought it from them, if you even can. So like, to me, this is pretty harmless. I also, keep in mind, I'm also a person who supports safety checks. I do think that like maybe the ATF, I'm assuming it'd be the ATF, should be allowed to come in and inspect your firearms in terms of like safety. Make sure that locks are on your stuff, that things are behind safes, stuff like that. I do think that that's perfectly fine. I don't have a problem with the government making sure that you're being responsible with a dangerous firearm. I don't personally see that as being a huge issue. Let's see. Come to this man's house with 3 armed men and vests, and probably not the most official way to do this. No. This isn't super crazy. Also, wearing vests in terms of like police work, wearing vests is really, really like low bar. Like, you pretty much wear a vest for almost any interaction that you have, just because it's the like easiest way to protect yourself in like a very like what's the word I'm looking for, like movable way, basically. Like you put a vest on and that's kind of it. They're just wearing t-shirts or button-ups and they just threw a vest on because God forbid something happens and they get shot. There's one layer of a vest to protect them, but I wouldn't make this out to be any scarier than it actually is. Like, it's they have no way of proving that he broken the law. He doesn't. This is just them investigating. Just because that's kind of it's how you check these sorts of things. Of people's houses. No. Wait. I advocate for unannounced searches of people's houses. Yeah, I guess I am. Yeah, I guess I am. Maybe not unannounced. I wouldn't be mad if it's like a if you get a letter telling you next week the ATF or whoever is going to come in and make sure that your firearms are like safely stored. Yeah, I have no problem with that. I have absolutely no problem with that. Or a different guy, but they were very similar video where they came back for a man in the middle of the night while him and his family was eating dinner. Yeah, that's stupid. Yeah, that's don't do that. Don't do that. After talking on a day. Yeah, I would say wait until, yeah, I mean, that's like, don't approach people's houses at night. That's cringe. They should not do that. There should be like like unannounced is, I would say, like, after you get your firearm, there should be like when they're ready to come and make sure your stuff is safely held, then you get like a letter, hey, next week at this time we'll be here to do an inspection really quickly. That's it. Like, I think that's fine. I got no problem with that.
From the federal side saying, hey, can you make sure this guy's got his gun? Now, if you recently just purchased a whole bunch of guns, if we can look at them and just scratch them off, and that way, because I know we don't see this list again.
Yeah, we can just write which ones you just bought, and so we save a trip from coming back. We can just confirm that you have them.
Okay. Yeah. I'll go get them.
Okay.
Okay.
We will wait out here.
Okay.
We will stay out here. You can lock yourself in there.
My little boy in there and my wife.
No. Listen, I understand.
In this video?
We'll stay out here. No big deal.
That's fine.
All right.
We'll stay out here.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, do I think cops are like always like, this is a really good interaction so far. I would say this is, yeah, not this guy. Yeah, like this is like what you're describing, bullshit. But that's also in line with the bullshit that cops always do. We need to root that kind of shit out of the policing process. But like good interactions, I do want to hold up as like these are good interactions between people. These aren't dangerous. Nobody here is like aggressing, and nobody here's also has like that aggressive body language. Everyone's just like, hey man, we're just here to do the thing. Like, you know, report comes up, you know, you did this, didn't do anything wrong. We're just here to make sure that like things are all on the up and up. And if you got something stolen, then you can let us know, and then we go from there. But like, yeah.
Now that y'all have seen the footage, a few things I probably need to explain for newer folks out there. When you do buy more than one firearm at a time, it does generate a form which is sent to the ATF by
I don't think that's unreasonable
FFLs
either.
Have absolutely no choice in this. They have to send it up. In fact, there's some FFLs that won't actually sell 2 firearms at one time, specifically to not have to deal with this issue. So additionally, this ATF agent claimed that there were 7 different firearms that he was interested in looking at. Number one,
dude, this dude bought 7
firearms? Order? Probably not. So with that, he probably went to the FFL and went through, or if they did an electronic file, or went through those records, pulled this guy's name up, all the serial numbers, make and model of each firearm, and he had them in his hand, as you guys could see in that video. Now, the ATF, as I've discussed in several videos, claims they do not have a firearms database. However, it seems they certainly do.
They probably should.
It's searchable by this agent to be able to pull this person's
Yep.
firearm information.
And I'd support them having it.
On the door. So there's that. Next, we have to talk about Fourth Amendment. This gentleman has a right to simply close the door, ask them to leave, never come back, exit his property, because obviously they're trespassing at this point, and he chose not to do so. That said, the agent, I believe there's 2 ATF agents and 1 Delaware state trooper. That's my understanding anyway. None of them, of course, read him his Miranda rights. None of them said he was charged with anything because he wasn't. They were just on a fishing expedition. Now, why is the ATF able to do this? So it all comes back to the Gun Control Act of 1968. That is when they put in the provision saying that if you bought 2 or more firearms at one time, again, a report is sent to the ATF.
Yeah, and like you would have to argue to me that buying multiple firearms is not at the very least a correlative or like a significant marker for like later violence. Like that kind of makes sense to me. If somebody walks into like a gun store and buys like a fucking armory, I would like, my 2 thoughts are, wow, that guy like has a lot of money. And 2, what the fuck is that guy doing with all of these firearms? And I think that's a reasonable suspicion to have. It's a bit odd, to say the least. I would say this falls under like the same like legal framework as what's the word I'm looking? What's the term? Reasonable suspicion, I guess. I would assume that's like this is a more formalized version of the, you know, if you get pulled over and like a cop smells something, which by the way, most of the time they're full of shit. You know, like, you know, and they go, oh, I have a reasonable suspicion to think that something in your trunk, open your trunk, all the rest of that stuff. Which even still then you still have your rights. You can still be like, nope, I'm not going to let you in. And I still think it's perfectly within this guy's rights to be like, no, I don't want you coming in. But I do think it's fine for them to show up and go, hey, we're just confirming that everything's on the up and up and everything's all good. Like policing and law enforcement and stuff like this doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to be confrontational. And that's like the problem I have. This person, whoever this content creator is, I can at the very least stomach this a lot more than I can somebody like Colin Noir, who's always beating they're coming for your guns, they're trying to ban all guns, government nonsense, because that's all just conspiracy, right? But like taking it from a reasonable stance, it's like, all right, yeah, is this a thing that happens when people give firearms to people who shouldn't have them? Yeah. Should we kind of investigate a little bit of that? Sure. If people refuse to cooperate, that's fine too. We might go get a warrant. We can go seek a warrant if we really want to. Obviously, I think like my issues with where you go after that comes down to, well, you know, policing in this country needs a lot of work. There's a lot of things that go into this, but under like just on its own, I don't see a problem with somebody with like an ATF agent coming and being like, hey, you made a bunch of purchases. We just need to make sure you have everything. And that, you know, you're just an enthusiast. That's all we're confirming. And if that's all you are, quite frankly, you shouldn't have, I think, any issue being like, sure, come on in, I'll show you the whole room if you want. Like, there really shouldn't be an issue with that. And I don't think it's like crazy to think like, yeah, like, all right, like I don't think it's crazy to think if you bought like, you know, a bunch of firearms all at once, you couldn't have walked out of the store and thought, nobody's gonna think this is a bit sussy. Like, come on, it's a bit off, but
in the belief that it could lead to a straw purchase. Now, the Biden administration has recently said that what they're doing as part of their FFL system reform is that they are going to be checking on folks who are purchasing 2 or more firearms at a time in the I-95 corridor, Indiana,
makes sense,
Nevada, and several other states where they believe there's a lot of straw purchases going on. Now, if you look,
yeah, I mean, if you're gonna give me a reason of like, hey, we see that a lot of trafficking of illegal firearms is going on in the I-95 region and the ones he mentioned, then that sounds like an actual, like, a reasonable and logical, what's the word, action to take. That seems, if you can explain it, if you're like, we see a lot of trafficking in these states, so this is where we want to focus, like, that makes sense to me.
Look at where this gentleman lived, just look around the neighborhood. I'm not saying that it can't happen there, but generally speaking, straw purchases happen for people in the hood. This guy appears to live in a decent neighborhood.
Okay, wow, that's okay. Right.
Somewhere in rural Delaware. Cool. Probably not the kind of place where you're going to see a lot of straw purchases. So it just goes to show, are the ATF agents looking for people who might not be fans of this administration? Possibly. It's certainly. What
you see? Okay, now I'm out. Now this guy's a dumb fuck, because now it came down to political ideology instead of the obvious thing of like, hey, we have to check this region. You live in this region. I know it's not the hood, but we check everybody. This is what we would call like equal this is actually an example of like the law of applying to everybody, or at the very least the this whole process applying to everyone, and not just going, oh, we're not going to check the suburbs because when do people break the law in the suburbs? That's bullshit. People in the suburbs break the law all the time, same like everybody else. The only difference is you see a concentrated amount of it in like urban areas because it's a higher population density. But like at the end of the day, it's like, well, how do you know that this guy isn't running a gun trafficking ring out of his suburban home? That's like, this is how black people end up getting pulled over for weed more often than white people do, because people just think, oh, they're in the suburbs. Come on, people in the suburbs don't smoke weed, even though they absolutely do. Like, this is now I'm getting out. Fuck this guy. It's fucking bullshit. But yeah, it's like, yeah, God forbid the suburban guy was mildly inconvenienced for like 2 seconds. Like, he'll be fine. And like that interaction, I didn't see any problem with. But yeah. Anyway, all right. Okay, back to Matt Walsh. I'm gonna think. Matt Walsh, theocratic fascist. Let's just go. Let's just see. Let's hear the complaints. Jesus, why are you always so loud?
If there's one thing the absolute worst elements of our society depend on, maybe more than anything else, it's that the majority of sane people have a lot going on in their lives. You know, they have jobs, families, hobbies. They can't keep track of every big scandal they hear about on television.
I love how he says that I love how Matt Walsh says that in a hotel room, probably in a different state, where he's going to go talk about how much he hates trans people and how much they need to be genocided, that he propped his little like fake children's indoctrination book up in the background. Love it, Matt. Love it.
And follow it for years to figure out how it turned out. They don't have the time to do that, even if they wanted to. And that's a boon in particular to the modern media, because they know that they can invent whatever lies they want in order to whip millions of people into a frenzy.
He does know that he's part of.
By the time the truth comes out, most people will have moved on with their lives. They'll have already voted in whatever election was coming up. They certainly won't demand mass firings of all the editors and reporters who lied to them. Won't even remember their names. And if you doubt that, try to recall, just as an example, who exactly told you that Michael Brown was a good kid who had his hands up yelling, "Don't shoot," when a white supremacist police officer in Ferguson, Missouri, shot him for no reason? Can you name any news anchor or journalist specifically who said that?
Dude, it's been forever.
Of course you can. I mean, they all did, but like, what's one particular one? It's impossible to single someone out because the entirety of the corporate media was telling the same lie in unison for 6 months. And then after all that time, and after a wave of deadly riots, the Obama DOJ was forced to admit that actually this good kid was not executed in the middle of the street for no reason. And oh yeah, he didn't have his hands up in surrender either. In reality, he had charge of the police officer, assaulting him and trying to take his gun. And he did that after he roughed up a store owner and stole some cigars. Did any of that extra context matter, though? To this day, college kids still gather in the street.
Well, no, because the argument is that he was unarmed, and when being tackled by the police officer was then killed. Like, yeah. Actually, I haven't seen the Michael Brown case in a really long fucking time. Let's see. August 9, 2014, Michael Brown was shot and killed by police. Let's see. Event ignited unrest in Ferguson. We all know about this. Or at least I vaguely remember it. God, when? This was 2014? Ugh. This was almost 10 years ago. Grand jury, extensive evidence from Robert. Prosecutor. 2020, prosecutor spent 5 months reviewing the case. Charged Wilson with either manslaughter or murder. In July, Bell announced he could not charge Wilson with any crime. Let's see. Incident. Okay, here we go. At 11:47 a.m., officer Let's see. Responded to a call about a baby with breathing problems and drove to Glenark Drive in Ferguson, east of Canfield Drive. About 3 minutes later, and several blocks away, Brown was recorded on camera stealing a box of Swisher Sweets, cigars, and forcefully shoving a Ferguson market clerk. Okay. Petty robbery. 6 minutes later, theft in progress. Ferguson Market described suspect black male wearing a white t-shirt running towards Quick Trip. Oh, right. Okay. Suspect reported to have stolen a box of cigarettes. Honestly, who reports that? It's cigarettes. Brown and his friend, Darian Johnson, left the market. Ferguson police chief said that the incident... Okay, let's see. Brown and his friend, Darian, left the market. Dispatch. Suspect was wearing a St. Louis Cardinals hat, white t-shirt, khakis, Ferguson, Thomas Jackson said the incident with yellow... Oh, my God. At midnight, Wilson reported... Radio 2522. Oh, my God. Initial reports of what happened next differed widely among sources and witnesses, particularly in regard to whether Brown was moving towards Wilson when the shots were fired. At noon on August 9th, Wilson drove up to Brown and Johnson. They were walking in the middle of the street and ordered them to move off the street. Wilson continued driving past the two men, but then backed up and stopped close to them. A struggle took place between Brown and Wilson after Brown reached through the window of Wilson's SUV. Wilson was armed with a cig. Police, which was fired twice during the struggle from inside the vehicle, with one bullet hitting Brown's right hand. Brown and Johnson fled. The Johnson hid behind a car. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Continue. Okay, a struggle took place between Brown and Wilson, and Brown reached through the window of Wilson's SUV. Oh, okay, so they get into a scuffle. Okay. Armed with a cig. Do we really need to know that's a 6-hour P229? Right hand. Brown was then shot behind the car. Got out of the vehicle, pursued Brown. At some point, Wilson fired his pistol again while facing Brown and hit him with at least 6 shots. Jesus. All in the front of his body. Brown was unarmed and died on the street. Less than 90 seconds passed from the time Wilson encountered Brown and the time Brown's death. Unidentified officer arrived. Unidentified officer? Okay. Police dispatch. Okay. I'm assuming we don't have video of any of this. I'm assuming we don't have video. New video. Really?
Yeah, first I'm actually going to go to 2 eyewitnesses to the shooting, Don, because we have those with us. Piaget, Crenshaw on the scene.
I just want.
What you saw. What is this?
Like wrestling through the window. It looked
Oh, okay.
Okay, what I saw was when the cop and Michael were like wrestling through the window. It looked as if Michael was pushing off and the cop was trying to pull him in. Then the cop shot a fire through the window. Michael breaks away and he starts running away from the officer. The officer gets out of his vehicle and pursues Michael as he's shooting his
Can you
weapon.
guys just show the fucking video?
Michael jerks his body as if he was hit. Then
This
he
isn't
turns
hit.
around,
This
faces
isn't the
officer,
video,
and puts
right?
his hands up, and the officer continues to shoot him until he goes down to the ground.
So Tiffany, let me ask you this though, because the video that we have up, you and I talked earlier about after.
Okay, so I didn't think so. I didn't think there was video for it. Okay. Anyway, moving on.
Street yelling hands up, don't shoot in honor of Michael Brown. It's not just BLM enforcers and Antifa who say that. A lot of normal everyday people have the same totally inaccurate view of what happened. What's unspoken here, what no one dares to say in the media, regardless of partisan affiliation, is who the actual victims of these charades are. Now, on the right, you'll occasionally hear people talk about, Michael Brown and his crimes and how he wasn't really a victim. But the name Darren Wilson.
Well, the real question is, was he committing a crime at the time that warranted deadly force? That's the actual question at hand with any of these police shootings. With any police shooting, the question is always, was deadly force, assuming they died, necessary in this case? To which, I know there's qualified immunity, which is bullshit, by the way, should never have been and never should be a thing. But, at the end of the day, it's not about they robbed they took some cigarettes or something, and because of that, and they had a scuffle, or because the cop didn't want to chase them, they just shot them in the back, or whatever it might be. At the end of the day, you've always got to justify deadly force, to which again, it's been 10 years. I'm not relitigating this. I don't even think, would I graduate at that point? Yeah, I was in the first year of college, so I don't hardly remember any of this shit, very vaguely. But yeah, that's the argument.
Is usually ignored in those conversations. He's the police officer who happens to be white, who spotted Michael Brown walking in the middle of the street nearly a decade ago. He's the cop Michael Brown started punching without any provocation.
Without any provocation?
No one seems to know or care. His lawyer said that he had to go into hiding. He could never be a police officer again. There aren't many recent updates on Darren Wilson's life on the internet these days. He's just disappeared. His life was destroyed.
Do you think Darren Wilson wants to be a public figure also? Matt Walsh is bringing Darren Wilson up. He's probably at his house no, please. I just want to go back to being a normal person. Please leave me out of this.
And that was that. The term scapegoat comes from the ancient Hebrew practice of casting an actual literal goat out into the wilderness as a symbol of the sins of the people and casting out the sins. We are laying all the sins upon this animal, casting it out. It's an old religious practice that's still carried out today, except in our culture, we find random white people like Darren Wilson to be exiled or destroyed as atonement for white sins specifically.
Are we just complaining about
Oftentimes the scapegoat is vindicated by the facts later on, but it doesn't really matter because the specific facts were never important to the mob and the people demanding this person's head. It doesn't matter what they did or what they didn't do. It matters what they represent. Maybe you recall this story from a few years back. In the late afternoon...
Whoa. Well, when you're police, it is kind of indicative that you represent the police force. You are representative of the state. Keep that in mind.
In late afternoon, several years ago, I think this is back in 2018, two black men walked into a Starbucks in Philadelphia, and they asked to use the bathroom. But the staff told them that the bathroom is for customers only, and that's a pretty common policy, especially in Philadelphia, because you don't want junkies shooting up in your bathroom. I mean, that's why they have these, that's why they lock the bathrooms. That's why they say you have to be a customer to use the bathroom. But the two men didn't buy anything. They just sat down and refused to make a purchase. After that went on for a while, and one of the staff members came up to them, told them they had to make a purchase or leave. Again, it's a reasonable request because Starbucks is not a homeless shelter. Okay, it's not just a lounge, to go hang out in. But the men refused to take either option. So the Starbucks worker called the police. And eventually the police arrived and they did exactly what they're supposed to do. They removed the trespassers. Watch.
Don't get no fight with them. Don't get no fight.
this has to do with being woke.
What did they get called for? Because there were two black guys sitting here meeting me? Yes. Well, what did they do? What did they do?
Well, you just heard him. You just heard him. He said, yeah, that's totally it. Yep, you just heard him.
They did.
They didn't do anything. I saw the entire thing.
They didn't. What did they do?
Nothing. The woman says for paying customers and after they didn't do anything.
Oh yeah, keep in mind also not to dwell on it too much, but just looking up the Michael Brown case, it seems like nobody we're never going to get a clear picture because like between eyewitness accounts and the police and family members, it doesn't seem like we're going to ever get a really clear picture. So when Matt Walsh claims to have a clear picture, his clear picture is whatever the police said. Like that's it. If the police say that he was holding a bazooka while reloading pulling the pin on a grenade while about to press the big red button for the nukes, Matt Walsh would take it. It wouldn't matter. The point is they killed a black guy, and that's what Matt Walsh is okay with. Like at the end of the day, he's like, well, you killed a black guy. It doesn't really matter the details, and I'll just take whatever your story is.
There's a guy in that clip who keeps asking, what did they do? Which, of course, helped the whole incident to go viral. And it went massively viral at the time. After all, if a random guy in the viral video doesn't understand something, then it must be outrageous. But it really wasn't that hard to understand. These two men walked onto private property. They refused to buy anything. And when they were asked to leave, they refused. It's called trespassing, otherwise known as a crime. In a world filled with uncertainties, it's crucial to be ready for...
Jesus Christ. It's also called a fucking ad break. Do you guys do anything other than ad breaks at Daily Wire? Jesus.
That white supremacy is alive and well in the United States. One of the most viral tweets about this episode, which got more than 100,000 likes, read this way, quote, America's a place where a black man has a greater chance of being arrested for going to Starbucks than a white man who commits treason in front of the entire world. Protesters began screaming about racism in the Starbucks store where this all went down as they were flooding into the store, and this went on for days.
A whole lot of racism, a whole lot of crime. A whole lot of racism, a whole lot of crime.
Cool.
Starbucks coffee is anti-black.
You know what's funny too? Matt Walsh is going to complain about this and bitch and moan and whine. But let's be honest here. If this was a right-wing protest, if this was, any number of conservatives who come here to complain about, I don't know, Merry Christmas not being on the cup or literally anything else, he wouldn't have one thing to say. He would be like, those are good, law-abiding citizens of America exercising their God-given right to protest and gather. He wouldn't have one issue with this. The issue that he has is that it's a cause that he doesn't care about. But to pretend that it's can you believe all these people protested in a private? Yeah, no shit. And also notice he hasn't fielded one argument that white supremacy isn't.
Now, instead of standing up to this insanity,
infect
as expected,
a lot of our systems,
Starbucks,
frankly.
as expected, they would not stand up to it. I mean, Starbucks CEO Kevin Johnson closed all of the company's stores in the U.S. and Canada, all the stores, because of this, for racial bias training. He also declared that bathrooms in Starbucks henceforth would be open to anyone, paying customers or not. Junkies can sit on the toilet and shoot up all they want. Kevin Johnson later went on CNBC
really
to brag about how well he handled the situation. And in the kiss of death, Jim Cramer praised him for it. Watch.
Talk about crisis. Talk about the way you handle it. Because I think when we look back in the textbooks,
oh my God,
it's going to be the way you have to handle something that is antithetical to everything you believe in.
Well, first of all, Jim, you got to say that when I saw the video of the two gentlemen who were arrested in our store,
CEO.
It was
That's
heartbreaking.
fucking disgusting.
But I knew at that moment that, as the CEO of the company, I'm accountable, and we've got to show up. I've got to show up. And so getting to Philadelphia, being on the ground and talking to everyone that I could talk to and learn from and understand why this happened, how this could happen, and then take action to ensure that it never happens again. Now, we're proud of the actions we've taken. You know, we closed our stores for the afternoon on May 29th. We did the first round of training every month. We're continuing to drop new training modules to our stores, and it has made us a better company. It has allowed us to actually elevate the customer experience in our stores.
I have to say, from the point of view of seeing a lot of CEOs address an issue, you got in front of it.
You know what would really help the company culture? Paying people a little bit better.
Obviously, if Jim Cramer is praising something, it's going to collapse very quickly. And Starbucks' response to this whole episode, which Jim Cramer loved, did just that. About a month after this incident, Starbucks decided to fire an employee named Shannon Phillips. Who is Shannon Phillips? Well, she was a regional manager in charge of 13 Starbucks locations in and around Philadelphia. She was not the store manager in charge of the location where this incident happened. But Shannon Phillips was fired anyway. Why? Well, here's what...
Well, Matt, if you've ever worked a day in your life, you would know that consequences go up the ladder usually, especially the bigger the issue becomes. Because the fact that this happened in a Philadelphia store means that it's the response, like it eventually falls on the store manager, but it'll also end up falling on the district manager. That's, you know, again, Matt Walsh kind of betrays himself here by revealing to everybody that he's never worked an actual day in his life. And he's always just been some asshole who, you know, gets on a camera and says his dipshit opinions. And that's the hardest thing he's ever had to do in his life, which, you know, that's fine. It's cushy, bitch made, certainly. But yeah, he really reveals that he's never worked a real job before. He's never worked in retail. He's never worked in service. He's never worked in any of these places. He's just, you know, a cushy little camera boy. It's all he's ever been. Now, I do this because I would like to take a break from working my body to the absolute bone, but at least I've like worked all of these in a few of these places. At least I have some work experience outside of just complaining that not enough people are fascists or hardcore evangelical Catholics like me. But you know.
What Shannon Phillips alleged in her lawsuit against Starbucks. She says that the company, quote, took steps to punish white employees who had not been involved in the arrests, but who worked in and around the city of Philadelphia in an effort to convince the community that it had properly responded to the incident. So Starbucks just looked for a white person to fire, is what they did. Phillips said that Starbucks...
You know what he doesn't understand? He's like, you looked for a white person. Here's the thing, Matt. It wasn't hard to do. And that's kind of the problem, isn't it? The fact that, like, to find a white person who's in your upper management is like the easiest thing you could ever do. Like at the end of the day, keep that in mind. The problem here, or at the very least, the systemic issue with Starbucks in terms of their diversity is, I can almost guarantee you, there probably aren't a lot of district managers that are going to be not white. You know, I've worked a lot of places. Your district manager tends to have a certain look to them pretty consistently.
In order to punish a white employee for PR purposes, you know, for
or
just
like
made up reasons, and when Phillips refused,
almost all
they
of their
fired her.
Employees are
They
white.
kept the black employee who ran the store at the center of this incident. Like the actual store manager was black, and they kept him, but they canned the regional manager.
Wait, what was the regional manager's take? Did the regional manager think nothing wrong happened there, or did the regional manager think something something wrong did happen? That's kind of an interesting detail now, isn't it?
Now, as you may have heard, Phillips just won a $25 million wrongful termination lawsuit against Starbucks. She proved that they discriminated against her because she's a white person who was offered as a sacrificial victim, just like Darren Wilson, and just like so many others. In her case, she was vindicated. She got some restitution, but that's rarely how these things play out. And by the way, just to put a bow on...
Oh, my God. Okay, so there's never information ever in their thing. Good to know. I mean, there's not information in their like videos either, so that's fine. Damn it. What the hell? What was their name?
Fire is what they did. Starbucks' response to this whole episode, which Jim Cramer loved, did just that. About a month after this incident, Starbucks decided to fire an employee named Shannon Phillips. Who is Shannon Phillips? Well, she was a regional manager in charge of 13 Starbucks locations in and around Philadelphia. She was not the store manager in charge of the location where this incident happened.
Let's take a look.
Shannon Phillips was fired anyway. Why? Well, here's...
Okay, let's move up.
Discriminated against...
Let's put this back. All right, let's take a look. Ooh, CNN? Hit me with it. Let's see. Let's say, Starbucks says it fired her for an absence of leadership. She says it was because of her race. All right. Is there like a, okay, let's see. Jury on Monday. Take a look. Jury on Monday found in favor of former Starbucks regional director Shannon Phillips, who sued the company for wrongfully firing her, claiming she was terminated for being white. Phillips, who worked at Starbucks about 13 years and managed a region of stores in the area, was fired. I don't know. It must be their logo. They really just hate their logo. Let's see. New Jersey jury returned a verdict. Oh, New Jersey. Ugh. Returned a verdict of $25.6 million. Nice. Including $25 million for punitive damages and $600,000. Jesus, that's a lot of money for a regional manager who's probably making definitely six figures, but punitive damage, $600,000, and compensatory damages, according to Consul. The jury ruled unanimously after a 6-day trial. Starbucks said it is disappointed in the decision and is evaluating its next steps. This week's verdict is the latest development in the lawsuit. Okay. 2019, the complaint. Okay. Phillips, who at the time oversaw areas including Philadelphia, said that Starbucks had ordered her to place a white employee on administrative leave as part of these efforts due to alleged discriminatory conduct, which Phillips said she knew was inaccurate. After Phillips tried to defend the employee, the company let her go. Interesting. Took steps to punish white employees who had not been involved in the arrest, but who worked in and around the city of Philadelphia in an effort to convince the community that it had properly responded to the incident. The reason for termination, according to the complaint, was that the situation is not recoverable. The complaint argued that it was a, quote, a pretext for race discrimination. Race was motivating and or determinative factor in the Starbucks discriminatory treatment. Let's see. Starbucks, which denied the claims at the time, said in 2021 a court filing that after the incident, senior leaders also, can we get a round of applause for somebody taking $25 million? Yeah, $25 million from Starbucks. Good for them. Or wait, well, they're probably not going to end up paying that out, right? Like, that's probably not going to end up actually happening. 2018, the incident was a major PR crisis. I do remember that vaguely. CEO, damn, get yeeted. Starbucks soon changed its policy to allow people to use Starbucks' restrooms, spent time in the stores, Okay, cool. Chain also closed around 8,000 company-owned stores for an afternoon. Don't care. Yeah, they're also closing stores because they don't want people to unionize their stores. That's also the reason why they're closing stores as well. Okay, cool. Good for them making a fuck ton of money.
Because she's a white person.
Can we get more like
who was offered as a sacrificial victim, just like Darren Wilson?
Yes, it is. The union makes
and just like so many others. In her case, she was vindicated. She got some restitution, but that's rarely how these things play out. And by the way, just to put a bow on this whole farce, last year, Starbucks reversed its open-door bathroom policy. According to the Philadelphia Inquirer, quote, Starbucks is modifying its open bathroom policy that allows anyone to use the restroom at its stores. Employees now have the option to close bathrooms if there are safety concerns.
Oh.
In other words, actually, Starbucks still doesn't want junkies shooting up in their bathrooms. You know, they allowed it for a few years in order to virtue signal, and they realized that, no, this is actually terrible. This is why.
I don't get what Matt Walsh's complaint here. His complaint is with capitalism. Like, at the end of the day, what you're complaining about, Matthew, is capitalism and the dogged pursuit of profits. That's all this is. I don't, like, this isn't really a left-right thing. This is they'll just do whatever brings them in money. That's actually really it. That's the, like, you can kind of clearly see that. It's not
why
it's
we
not
don't
really
want this. Maybe the manager who called the cops 5 years ago was right after all.
It's not really that deep.
Who would have thought? That case is notable because it's so rare. You almost never see vindication for these sacrificial lambs in any of these cases. Certainly you don't see restitution.
Misinformation.
You don't see legal vindication anyway. And you almost never see laws against racism applying to actual racists.
You and I both know, that the Democratic Party is as boring
Instead, you
and
see what's happening
centrist
to Daniel Penny, who's the Good Samaritan who restrained a violent lunatic on the New York subway. And we finally heard his full side of the story a few days ago, which we played on the show at the time.
Oh, wait.
Keep in mind, Daniel Penny is taking a major risk by...
Are we still talking about Daniel Penny? Dude, it's like super fucking obvious that he killed that guy. Like, there's like no ambiguity about this whatsoever.
Speaking out. Most defense attorneys tell their clients, and I don't know if this happened with Daniel Penny, but I would assume it did, tell their clients to stay silent and plead the fifth. That's because even if you're innocent, it's easy to slip up and say something that a prosecutor can use in court to make the case that you're guilty. So it tells us a lot that Daniel Penny, like Kyle Rittenhouse, is disregarding those risks. He knows what he knows what happened. He knows the truth. He was listening to music on his headphones, minding his own business when Jordan Neely, a vagrant with dozens of arrests, including one for punching a senior citizen.
It's too bad none of those were happening at the time, you dipshit. Oh my God. They say the same shit every time. Somebody once committed a crime, but it wasn't at the moment in which they were killed by a random vigilante. Matt, that's not how this works. That's not how law works. That's also not how self-defense works. You do have to prove like a reasonable threat to your life to use deadly force on somebody, especially when you're not law enforcement. It's like, God damn. Like, my favorite thing is he really just says stuff, right? Like, he really just says the dumb fuck thing, and the most obvious, like, yeah, if you think about it for 2 seconds, it's like, yeah, that's not really how that works. You don't just get to kill somebody because they committed a crime at some point in their life. Like, if that was how it works, we would have fucking anarchy, absolute anarchy. But, you know, does it need to make sense with Matt Walsh? Not really. Bring back McCarthyism. Yeah. Wait. I thought, wait a minute. You recognize that McCarthyism was a incredibly influential and like, what's the word I'm looking for? Strong influencing factor into what was allowable in political rhetoric. And then I'm assuming you're not in favor of political correctness, right? Like, McCarthyism is literally political correctness. And say you're spreading misinfo, you know you're speaking the truth. Yeah, because, well, you're just lying, really. That's all it is. Is this what we're doing right now? Being chased down. Oh, so I get to kill people when I get chased? Cool. That's the standard now. Didn't have reasonable force against you. Okay. You guys seem like you're having fun, so correctness is just political. Good correct for Democrats. This is true. And you get a timeout. And you get a timeout. There we go. Much better. I love when they come in and they're like, let me like shit all over like a chat. Let me spread my
a couple of senior citizen assaults
all over.
Began doing exactly what you would expect of a vagrant who punches senior citizens. He was threatening to kill passengers. He was saying that he wasn't afraid to go to jail. He wasn't afraid to die. Penny, a Marine, then.
Well, the first one actually isn't true at all. The second two, freedom of speech. Yeah. Considering there was no direct threat to anybody, sounds like this is a freedom of speech issue.
Restrained Neely with the help of another passenger, making sure he could breathe.
And then killed him.
And that's when Neely, who, according to his family, was taking mind-altering synthetic drugs to treat depression, died.
What? Wait, what? Wait, did he pop the mind-altering synthetic drugs while in a sleeper hold? Okay.
It's clear now, as if it wasn't clear already, that Penny was
he
not
was
only
taking
in the
his
right,
PUBG
but in
pills while
fact,
being put in a
acting
sleeper
heroically.
hold. Yeah.
And we also know that much of what was originally claimed about the case, especially that Penny choked Neely for 15 minutes, was a lie. The actual incident went on for just a few minutes, like 5 minutes. But in spite of all those facts, which aren't even in dispute, the grand jury just this week indicted Daniel Penny.
Oh, no.
He becomes yet another in a long line of scapegoats who happen to share the same skin color. At a certain point, you have to take a step back and recognize that the specifics of all these incidents, again, don't matter to the mob. No one cares that Michael Brown never said, hands up, don't shoot. No one cares that the two black men in the Starbucks were trespassing. No one cares that Jordan Neely was threatening to kill people. All that.
Once again, okay, keep in mind, Matt Walsh is only making this video as examples of justified killings by white people to black people. That's all this is. On June, when did this video come out? I don't think this came out today, right? He doesn't have the balls to put this out today. No, this was 2 days ago. So keep in mind, Matt Walsh over here, totally not racist guy, has come out and decided that, nope, the real victims aren't the people who lost their lives in these 3 specific cases. It's the poor white people who get to keep on living, but now people are going to recognize them as the guy that killed that other guy. Those are the real victims, not the guys who died, but these people who committed violence, killed people, and are now facing the social repercussions of doing so. That and keep in mind, he only cares, he's only upset about it because they're white, and he thinks, hey, look, these were black people acting the way black people act. And that's why Matt Walsh thinks that it's okay when you kill them. Like,
what matters is that Darren Wilson, Shannon Phillips, and Daniel Penny have the wrong skin color. At least that's all that matters to the social media mob, to the media, to the biggest corporations in the country, to the justice system in so many cases. We see it again and again, and too many incidents to mention. And they're not worried that Shannon Phillips won $25 million. They think her case is the exception that proves the rule, which is that there are no consequences for lying in the most base and unethical ways possible.
I mean, let's be clear. If she proved that Starbucks was being anti-white, then that's hilarious. I don't care. They're a corpo. They can get charged all the money in the world. Like that. I got no problem with that. If you were able to prove that in court, so be it. But at the end of the day, the other ones, like, we'll never get a full picture of Michael Brown. In terms of Jordan Neely, we actually have a very clear picture of what happened. So, like, one of these is, like, maybe tangentially related to his topic, but it all comes down to look at white people who've been persecuted ever, and let me throw in one genuine persecution and 2 bullshit ones to basically launder off the other 2.
What's hopeful, what suggests that they might be very mistaken, is that these sacrificial lambs aren't just going into hiding anymore. Darren Wilson had to disappear nearly a decade ago. That's how powerful the mob was. People like Daniel Penny, they're not hiding. He's going in front of cameras, telling everyone what really happened.
Probably
even
not
in
a great
Alvin
idea.
Bragg's New York, of all places, he's doing that.
Oh my God! Can you
Right now,
believe
this is
it?
not the norm,
Like,
but if
he's
Daniel Penny
able
wins, as
to
Shannon Phillips did,
get his case heard.
that could change in a hurry. Once the race hucksters and the outrage merchants know that their targets aren't going to simply back down and that people will remember what happened to them, then those people start to lose their power. And obviously,
God damn, this dude really doesn't say very much, does he? He just pontificates the entire time. Okay. I know we didn't play any video games today. Mainly because maybe just because I felt like it. Because I didn't feel like playing video games right now. Yeah, still a bit sick, but we'll be back tomorrow. 7 o'clock. I do want to go over the other videos that we didn't watch today, which should be interesting. More things to respond to, and we'll go over just whatever the news is for tomorrow. Either way, everyone have a fun time. For the 2 idiots that I sat into timeout, fuck yourself. Otherwise, I'm gonna go for the night, and everyone have a nice time. See you tomorrow. Hilda Rose, congratulations on being number 69. Like I said, nobody else is getting two bites at the apple in terms of their follow notification. Again, you all have a lovely night.